Do as I say, not as I do.
Lost for me, not for me.
And I get it, but it's related to yeah. So what time is it?
Was mobile back to mine.
That should be a lot now.
Yeah.
Set.
Yes.
Okay, morning day on council. This morning, at the strategic planning session for elected officials. The mayor is going to do a quick introduction for the staff. The purpose is simply to gather additional information, share what has been gathered from the environmental scan, the city, as well as determine what council believes is their picture of strategic purpose. So that I have lots of introductions.
Oh, good morning. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate you all being here. I've what I'm not supposed to do, like read it, turn the pages. Yeah. We have so many things that are about to come together. Right? What we're working on today will be the glue that perhaps puts those pieces together. We may never see a lot of the fruit that's born from our efforts, but at this point in my career, we're laying the foundation for long-term legacy for the future. We'll see some things, but this is something that will benefit our community far into the future. For the record, we have Councilwoman Alva, Councilman Davis, Councilman Campbell with us, and young member of the public, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself. Nice. Morning. You've got a packed day for us. Since there are only 4 of us here, we can really get things done.
Exactly. Are y'all ready to jump right in? Excellent. Well, before I start the slideshow, thank you all in advance for the time that we're going to spend together today. We're really excited to get this point in the process. As you all know, there's been a lot of community engagement, a lot of work that we've done with your staff really get us to this point. And today is really about getting your ideas and your thoughts and your vision for the future of the community out on paper. I say this early on into the process today. It's not a group writing exercise. We're really just looking for raw material that Lucas and I and the team will take back and turn into that draft plan that we'll bring back to you all later into the summer so that we can set that direction that the mayor's talking about. So with that, make sure I've got clicker one. I don't know that it's connected now that we've heard. There we go. All right. So we've done the introductions. Next, Lucas is going to walk through the environmental scan. Then we'll really dig into the meat of the day, which, as you see here, is developing the mission, vision, timeline. Once again, the ideas, the themes that you all would like to see in that going forward. We'll talk about core values and then the priority areas and the goal statements. Where do you really want staff to focus over the next 5 years? Where do you want to align your budget and your resources to make progress as an organization for the community? And then we always specify the steps where we're going after we conclude today. So a little about who's sitting in front of you. I'm Karen Richard. Been with Barry Dell for a couple of years. I do this work all over the country, strategic planning projects. Ones I have currently going on include Margate. We just finished up St. John's County, worked in New Braunfels, Texas, Onslow County, North Carolina, which is actually really similar when I was looking at that. They are an agricultural community with camp fishing, so that mix of military and agriculture, that really speaks to me. My prior career joining Barry Dell, I worked in local government in the Charlotte region. So I always felt like I started as a PIO, I ended as an assistant county manager, and I did a little bit of everything between along the way. So really excited to be here with you all. Strategic planning was always a favorite thing I did when I worked in local government, and it's such a pleasure to work across the country doing this. So that's me, Lucas.
Good morning. Thank you. I'll echo what Karen said. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Saikowski. I also have experience in local government. I actually served on the planning and zoning commission. But my expertise, yeah, as in process improvement, scope improvement, and things of that nature. So really looking for a session here today.
So just as a reminder, foundational, you all have seen this, but what are we doing? What is the strategic plan? What's the purpose? The strategic thing, as you see here, really three key things. It's what the city is going to prioritize going forward, that alignment with your budget, the alignment with priorities. You can't do everything at once. Really, what is the core of the focus? That middle document is so important that it is something that is a living document. It's something you reference often when you're allocating resources, when you're looking at new initiatives. How does it fit into the plan? What does this mean for the organization? What is the capacity? Where are we going? And then the transparency piece. This is a way for you to communicate very clearly and succinctly to the residents. This is where we're spending our time and energy, so that they know where you're going and why. This bottom part, so it's where you're going, how it happens, the details of the area, the action steps, that's the implementation, and that's a later phase. That's really what staff is doing. So today we're focused on the what and where. The plan development process, you all have been so intimately involved in this, which is great in the community forums, but there's really three key components to developing a good citywide strategic plan and goals for everybody. So there's the community, there's the work reforms that we did with them, there's survey data about where they, the city should go, what they think the priorities are, what they would like to see. So that's their role. You all are here really today to set that policy direction. What is the mission, the vision? Where do you want the organization to go? What does the tagline look like? And then you adopt the plan. This is your document. This is your roadmap for where you'd like the organization to go. And then staff's job next week, they'll take the work that we do here together today and say, okay, this works. Ooh, maybe we have to tweak this or add this or modify that. And then go into the objectives. So the specific logic modeled stuff. So here's where we're going, here's where we're going to accomplish the work inside the parties. And most importantly to me, I'm a former budget person. So how are we going to measure it and how are we going to fund it, right? So what does that look like from a performance measure standpoint? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lucas to quickly walk through the environmental plan. You all have seen some of this, so we've abbreviated it. But really the purpose of this is just to share with you all the latest data that we have from the community and their perspectives, looking at those broad themes that will really help inform the work.
So as you can see yourselves, here we have the results of the environmental scan. I won't go through each of them, but when asked the question, what are some things that the city government does well? The top 5 items include emergency response, operational, active public parks and facilities, engagement with communities and residents, public transit, and emergency preparedness. So we see some of the themes related to emergency response and preparedness, as well as public areas and transit. When asked, what are some things that the city government could do better? The top 5 responses were road maintenance, city beautification, economic development, cultural amenities, as well as affordable housing. The way I personally like to see this is that the city does some things well, but it's like, okay, let's just take it to that next level. And then the top 5 aspects that you think Homestead should prioritize in the next strategic plan are similar to the ones we see that could be improved from the previous question. What are some areas for improvement, which include the roads, maintaining outdoor spaces, neighborhood improvements, and that economic development piece, as well as jobs and workforce development. Here during the interviews, when asked which we think the city does well, we see very much a lot of similarities to the survey responses. Some of the items include the community events, effective communication, and transparency and trust.
That's a big deal, transparency and trust.
Absolutely, yes, and it's so crucial because if residents trust the community, trust the council, trust the city to do well, then I believe it's easier to pass things along and make sure that the community is involved and accepting of various changes.
My perception would be that many times folks who respond to these surveys, baked into the scale, have an axe to grind. Either you really want to be a part of it, or you really want to complain. So when you factor that in, transparency and trust right over here is very heartening to me that we are, everybody has to point out that it's proved, et cetera, but they trust us.
Generally.
The other thing I wanted to also add to that is that even though they're acknowledging we do this as well, I don't take this as a big check the box. And we feel we're transparent. I think they see through the transparency that we are tight to that, how we're constantly working to improve them.
Right.
And so good that they feel that that's being taken care of, but I don't feel that we've reached, ultimate.
Absolutely, and that's a good mentality to have, that, you know, don't take your hand off the gas, but just keep it where it's at, right? To maintain what you're going to do well.
And one good to articulate as well is because the city had not done this in the past, this now forms the baseline for which to sharpen when it's forced scale.
Absolutely. And in the future, if you, if and when you conduct another strategic plan, you can look back at the, for the previous strategic plan, where we're absolutely. So
Aside from the responsiveness of customer service, I want to be that a priority of this project because, you know, we are trying to do the things the correct way. I'll give you an example, like we passed the legislation about the signs and everything. But people are going over there taking out the signs, not addressing the situation with the owners of the business and not giving them any information. And then they come over here and we don't give them any answer. That's a problem.
next, during the interviews, when asked any of the things the city can do better, some of the items included transportation and infrastructure, internal process improvements, balancing growth and preservation, among others.
It's funny that, you know, on one hand, they talk about transparency and trust. On the other hand, they're saying, well, we can do communication a little better. Yes, that's the other component
Sure, yeah.
of the respondents.
Yeah, but I think it also is a different leg of communication. So yesterday, for example, I was talking to a business owner and she was venting that as a business owner, they're not receiving communication as to upcoming events that are happening in, let's say, for example, Plaza Park for businesses nearby. So if she had the communications, although we tell her it's on social media, if you're plugged in, you're gonna know, but if we can improve the communication to the stakeholders directly, which they're email blasts, things like that, then they can prepare their business to create flyers, promotional, advertisements.
They put it also know like the things that are happening this month in the line.
So maybe alternative forms of communication, expanding what we do now, just.
Well, as for sure, you know, no runs in communicating.
I was gonna-
A bunch of basics.
Yeah.
And everyone needs to be talking about it. Because I don't think the communication part per se is against the city management, you know,
Right.
because there's pretty happy, it's about one of these things happening. What's the bus schedule? What's the, you know,
There's no one perfect answer, it's a lot of different things.
Yet to do one of these things. So it's anywhere in the country, this isn't something, and part of it is, you know, the media environment has completely changed the last 2 decades. It's more dispersed, it's more individualized and keeping pace with that, and part of it is there's just so much out there. There's noise and helping people figure out through that clutter what's relevant to them in the far, but to your point, I love that basic, and I'm doing that, I'm using that going forward.
Let me give you an example. We're gonna be providing, or we are providing free Wi-Fi, the bars and everything. When they like log in, we put a question. You know what the days of this month are gonna be? Do you know the transportation schedule? And they can access that immediately right there.
You have to answer questions to log in the Wi-Fi all the time,
Yes,
it's
yes.
similar to like a platform,
Yeah.
log in and you have to.
And in the year,
Yeah, that's a great way to engage with the absolutely. During the community forums, moving on to the slides, during the community forums, there were a handful of themes that popped up, among them, traffic congestion, jobs and amenities in the community, and public safety. So these are all very consistent themes that keep popping up through various engagements that.
traffic congestion is one of them. Everybody's asking about that.
Yes.
Turnpike is expanding the ramps on Campbell and.
I
Yeah.
I know that,
There's,
I know that.
well, it's still a problem, I'm just saying.
everybody's complaining about traffic.
When asked what is important to you, there were a handful of different areas, but the top being economic development, entertainment, like a district or a hub, revitalization in downtown, as
It
well.
kind of goes hand in hand.
Yes.
Revitalization.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Of course, yes. And improve the permitting process. And so again, this is sort of the way I see it is, okay, the city's doing great, let's elevate it to that next step. During the employee survey, when asked what are some things the city does well, very similarly to the other surveys, we saw emergency response and preparedness, public transit, civic gathering areas, as well as recreational programming. What can the city do better? Road maintenance, making it easier to do business with the city, affordable housing, city beautification, smart, efficient management of public funds. And then when,
I'd love to know what the background of that is. Yeah, it's pretty high up on this list. So, on one hand, they have trust and we're transparent. On the other,
Well, that's public, it's employees, that's what I find interesting, that this is from the inside perspective, that they
Yes.
do see that there's room for improvement on how we can be more efficient.
yes, and that's a benefit of asking different groups the same question because you get a different perspective.
And even they recognize we can make it easier to do business with the city.
those are the bargaining units for 15%. That's what that is.
Because sometimes that's embedded, right? It's too many things that it's not in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this kind of manages situation.
Yeah.
When employees and do things better. Easier to do business with the city, rather than telling you there are too many issues. That's fine.
That's why.
Well, but
Too many regulations.
residents and employees are realizing.
Plus council is making too many laws. So,
We're gonna simplify.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which sort of makes sense because if we go back really quickly, excuse me, I went the wrong way. So on here, we see that improve the permitting process was one item that popped up, that is important to you. And seeing that employees and staff say, making it easier to do business with the city because employees are the ones that facilitate that business process.
The problem in the city, that every single employee here is the boss. That's the problem. You won't do one and that. We're gonna take later, that's it. Instead of passing the ball to the people that will resolve that problem. It's the problem that we have.
But it's interesting, in the last 90 to 120 days since you've done this initial survey, we have implemented, segmented the permitting.
Liaisons.
And a new customer service provider. So those things are
Yeah,
down the road.
And we are also transitioning to digital forms of the legal services. On October 1st.
nice.
The electronic plans review, licensing and fee payment becomes digitalized. So employees are looking forward to some of these additional steps. That makes it easier for them to invest. Right now, everything is by law. That's what.
Yeah.
But
And then that'll also provide you a notice that, like what's really happening in a way that's easy to see and dissect.
That's what's important, the data.
Yeah,
That way we can implement these to expedite things more.
yeah, it's a launching off point. It's a really-
We have some business over here that they have been 3-4 years waiting.
But also, I think it's being that we're incorporated, we have our password license or business permit, but then also you have to adjourn. You have to get that one as well to see you, so. And you can't do this one until this is done.
Yes.
And then people don't realize that they're opening a business in the city of Homestead, they think they do this and that's it, but no, there's a whole extra leg
Yeah.
and they're not budgeting or planning, they're opening, they're paying rents, things like that, so.
No, but we have problems
Educating
also over here.
them.
Because it was on the terms that first come, first served. And if you are denied the first time, then you go back to that. You need to wait 2 or 3 months. That's ridiculous.
But I do think that the liaison, position that was just filled, I think this week or last week, it's hopefully gonna help solve that problem.
Yeah, and as someone who worked in the community development department, as management analyst, the department wanted to find efficiencies and improvements in those processes, and staff are able to see that because they firsthand work in that space. And so they can kind of insight into, okay, all the red tape and bureaucracy because they live it and they work in it. So it, it kind of makes sense that the employees and that this popped up when employees were recipients.
And I do want to acknowledge that in the development services department, my understanding is that the DRC process is not, they're not waiting for that clock to have to start all over again to submit paperwork. So whatever before, whereas before, if you, let's say you missed the deadline to submit your conditions for review by 1 day, you have to wait a whole month.
It's not tomorrow.
It's a rolling process.
Yeah.
You're extending things for years sometimes, so.
Yeah,
That has helped.
And I think it really kind of a takeaway of this conversation is this is a point in time and these things are in progress.
Yeah.
And so I would expect this to look very different this time.
And there's also a big challenge that businesses having outside of the past. So which have led us to transition away from the vendors, manage government services and kind. In the past, once you come in, they check out what you can ask. So it takes a lot of businesses a lot of time.
Yeah.
But the CEO changes, yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
when you hire people in house, they need to accept us.
Mhm. Oh, wow.
Moving on, so when asked to select the top 5 aspects we think Homestead should prioritize in the next strategic plan, the top 5 items included traffic alleviation, roadway expansion, police services, job and workforce development, and economic development. So again, just those consistent themes that we've been seeing
And
throughout.
this is, who was the pool?
Everybody.
This is the all the survey? Entire survey is not employees, but it's public.
No, this is just the public survey.
Public, okay.
Yeah.
Is there any more granular information when they talk about police services?
Yeah, what do they,
Like,
yeah, like presence versus count versus.
I'm not sure, we can look into it.
Engagement versus friendliness.
What we can do is take another look at the qualitative open-ended responses for that specific question and get that back to you, but at this level, no, this is really just looking for broad news.
No, and I'm sure that a lot of these responses are without the knowledge or engagement within the chief and
The other piece of that,
It's always been great.
yeah,
right.
I think fortunately, we get lumped in with the greater Homestead area.
Yeah.
And there is a perception
Right.
of crime
Yeah.
that doesn't really exist in our jurisdiction.
one of the things we're seeing nationally, regardless, it could be the safest place in the United States. Is that the perception of crime has risen across the board. So our, some of our clients who do statistically all the surveys for years have seen an increase in the perception of crime in their citizens, even though the rate of crime may actually increase. And it's the national narrative. It's like you all, the TV market you're in, right? That can impact people's perception. So we always counsel to take this with a little grain of salt and make sure own intuition about what's occurring and your knowledge and insight. However, that perception is important. So what we're engagement standpoint, from communication standpoint, might be something to consider.
I think that, going back to the public affairs side, that's a public affairs machine.
Yeah,
exactly.
They didn't call Channel 7, for example, they just happened. They have happened nearby Homestead, they have to incorporate it in Miami County and fix it, or my next call is to our city attorney to make it fix it. And that kind of enforcement is not happening yet, because everything is Homestead, it's all the area.
Getting the news directors, I've had this meetings with the news directors saying, no, stop it, like, enough, but that's hard, because especially as the understaffed, as somebody solid now, or now, or they were, but it's an ongoing.
And they just don't, they also don't know it, you know, personally, they don't know the difference. They don't know the barriers of line. They're just reporting. It's exactly what I was going to say. We need a rapid response effort when the narrative out there is against us.
Well, it's to transition these outlets into referring to South Miami-Dade County or Southwest Miami-Dade County. Because folks from outside of Homestead have driver's licenses that say Homestead.
Yep.
Addresses say Homestead, just as out in West Kendall, it says Miami. And they're nowhere near the city of Miami. But Miami doesn't get tagged with all the stuff that goes out or out in the unincorporated area of West Kendall. We do.
Not only that, let's say we are teaming up with Florida Police Department also. But to help them in whatever situation. And the incident is in Florida City. When they roll the cameras, all the homes, there's no.
All right, so that,
Nice neighborhood.
I had, this came up in some of the conversations, just this conversation, so it's a known thing, something I think. All right,
So we'll transition now to discussion.
so we just, I'm gonna move this, so you all can see this. So we actually did a great job talking about this along the way, but from the environmental stand, one of the things we like to capture is what stood out to you. And I will start by saying, because we're early in our time together, I'm a terrible speller and my handwriting is so. So we're just gonna have to bear with that limitation that I have. And Lucas also doesn't have the best handwriting, but it'll be okay, I promise. So just, I always say that.
I think you should follow.
So from the environmental stand, we've already talked about the transparency and trust being important. So I want to note that.
You're missing an end in environmental.
We can see. There is, I've got a note here about responsiveness and customer service is something to focus on, and that's important. Okay. And then my other notes is alternate communication methods are important to consider. And I think that's also part of this conversation because about the police services. What else stood out to you all from the environmental stand? What do you think is important as we spend more time together today? I think
the most important thing is customer service.
Okay. And put a cigar by that.
And I'm going to explain you why. Everything reflects in us. And if those people that doesn't do the right thing, they're going to be calling us thinking that we are the ones. We have to concentrate that a lot.
And that translates to all the departments,
Yeah.
customer service,
Yeah.
whether it's development services, police department, parks and rec.
That reputational thing.
Yes.
I think another issue I would add is everyone gripes about the roads. You know, the road, resurfacing, what have you. And I know a number of things happen, but we don't always quantify that this many miles of roads have been resurfaced this year and this is protected for next year, you know, that kind of stuff. So, unless I can really, with a basic kind of moment, start putting that out to people, they just assume that my road isn't done, so nothing's there. And that's not necessarily an accurate, you know, an accurate perception.
That is a really interesting point and one that we'll carry through to the staff retreat next week, because that's a great performance measure, right? There's always a couple of measures that are really important for community to report, to build that message and that story. So we'll make sure that we carry that.
Not to mention there are like 5 different jurisdictional roadways within the city.
And just so that I don't forget, I know I came in late, but according to crime, the same should be done with PD.
Yeah.
Talking about what specific crimes did happen and so that
Didn't we request a report from the police department a couple, 3 months ago? To say just a snapshot report, this what's going on.
Yes.
I don't think we've ever received that.
And especially now with the shakes.
That's where,
One thing I'd like to add on the board is, expediting, fast tracking development services with, also educating the stakeholders about the properties, what they're zoned for, what they can develop, what would be the process to change use, before they enter, individuals into leases with landlords. That could, we could activate, chambers and realtor associations and make sure they're getting the information so that they can educate their client base, which in turn are our residents and our taxpayers.
Yeah, I think it's important that realtors.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if that commission was, it's not.
And also signage, we want to make sure we clean up our city and we are, creating a balanced, balanced code. So an example, from yesterday, speaking to a business owner, they were only using an A-frame sign. I said, well, why don't you just put a regular sign on your building? Oh, I can't because I have, some CRA application open. So that's closed, I won't be able to file. Well, how long has that been open? Since 2019. So there's got to be efficiency made in the applications and looking for ways to improve that process. So I said, we'll ask if you can, that 2019, sorry to go into this tangent here, but the 2019 application that she has open with CRA is for an awning. The awning now since then has increased in price. So she's got to go back and reopen that awning CRA application. Yes, exactly. And so I said,
You got the sign that they haven't done.
I know. Well, so then I said, well, if you're going to go back and amend the price, it's got to come back to CRA after we can roll in the signage, because you're not at your threshold for the business grant. So these are things that I think staff should be able to come to the table with these solutions. Not me trying to put out fire of a business owner that's not.
That's what I was saying.
That's all it is.
I was going to take out and say, no, tell me, listen, put the sign here, go to the city and.
But also back to the point of educating about signage and what you can do, she kept saying, I don't have it on the sidewalk, I don't have it in the right of ways, the grass is public right of way. And she did not understand that. So regardless of all the conversations she had in person on the phone with staff and trying to understand that point was being missed, she did not know that the grass was the right of way.
If it's outside your wall, it's
So
not.
why the same people that is in there think that.
Exactly, that's my point. So it's not to educate, and we have to do a better job of customer service to make sure that these are.
I think that practice much has solution-minded customer service.
Exactly, yes.
That mindset.
Like last week, there was a computer place. Okay? And I talked to Josh, they fix everything, one day.
No, and in that example, because they were told that they can't even have it on their own private property, which, so that's where we have to find a balance when we do the rewrite.
Even the new thing inside the property that.
The open sign, but these are things that are not in our code because our code is antiquated, but we do need help with identifying what are some
Pero mi amor, he had a sign in
16 years. I know.
16 years.
We need help with identifying what sign code, because our sign code is pretty non-existent, like it exists and it's.
It's not enforced.
Right, and it's very antiquated, so perhaps we need to identify what cities do we like. What do we like, that's going on in other cities and how do we replicate that here? Where's the gap?
All right, I've got that. Anything else from the environmental standpoint we need to keep in mind as we go through our time today? Anything else that stick out? Any surprises or anything like that?
I need help understanding the results here, so this is, for example, what are the things that the government does well, 7, but does this mean that they meant to don't do it well or they just didn't select it?
So it's like you could select all the so it wasn't a huge priority. So some people go in and they say, oh, this is something to do as well. Some people select nothing. Some people select 4 things. So it's really.
So it's not, it wasn't done as a, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 to 5. Okay, so
Yeah,
they didn't pick it.
Yeah, it did, yeah.
but as you referenced the preceding slide, things like city beautification. application,
Mhm.
water, sewer,
Well, we can do
infrastructure,
better.
are the things that we could do better.
Correct.
Yeah.
And what I did, go to where you were.
This is what, so we came
One
in,
down.
does well.
No, and but the one that says.
Yes, okay. So what I look at, anything below the 25% are things that we have to.
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm,
When
We
you,
don't do well.
when you,
then we never have.
when you flip them, now what's interesting about y'all's responses that we don't typically see is you don't have to answer the question on the survey. So you'll notice that there's 67 here and there's more on the other, so that's your axe to grind, right? But in general, this lines up. These are the things that you could do better, or,
Sorry.
yeah, so these things y'all do well, could do better. When you flip it,
This is.
it is.
well, that's what I wanted to get clarification.
Yeah.
So when so on the ones that said the government does well, there's, the bottom one is economic development. Do I take that as a negative? That was a negative response,
Then we
or?
don't do well.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
Only 7 people said we do well.
Yeah. Yeah,
Is that the 7 of us?
On page 16, where it says 155 people said we need to prioritize
What page are you on?
16.
And so the other thing I would point out is the thinking for fees, right? So there's this theme percolating out that we've heard from the interviews around not having a good veteran with a few jobs here. I mean, things to do here. I heard a lot from staff about would like to have a little bit of money, but it's not a problem, just that sense of vibrancy. So we heard that in the interviews, we see it in the survey around economic development. So what that's really telling us, this is all qualitative data, so if I have any statistical leaders in the room, it's not statistically valid, I'll send that too. But it's like, this is the thing. This is the thing that multiple different types of people care about working in different ways. This is something to consider as you're working today, right? And then you take your lived experience and your expertise in the community too as a part of it. That's really. Does that help answer your question about the data?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else we need to put here before we move into the swap part of our exercise?
No, but I reserve the right to ask.
Okay. We have lots of markers and sticky paper and post-it notes, so I don't know.
We're gonna be having another meeting.
So how this works is we go through today and we're getting the raw material. Then we meet with staff, they go upon the work that you do. We're really, the intent is policy direction today, how to make that policy go next week. Then we bring all of that back to you to work with. So that's your next step. As far as that goes. Great question. So let's talk about the SWOT analysis. So what I have here, and y'all have all read it, which I love. So Lucas, if you want to go to the next, or I guess I can just. It's really what we have is what are you all good at? What do you want to build on? What are some of the external challenges that you are facing or some internal opportunities? Just to get a sense of that current state. So here's where we are today. So we're thinking about the next 5 years. What do you build upon? What do you want to improve? What could you do more better? And then what are some changes you might consider making? So the SWOT analysis that we have here, I always say, this is our first draft. There are obvious things missing from here for you all to add in, but it's just to help get you thinking. So what we're going to do here is talk about what should be added or removed. So I'll walk through our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges, and then Lucas will write probably on that paper what changes I would make with additions. So for the strengths that we all saw as our team, is that you do have good public safety. Like that is a strength of this community, this perception, but the actual provision of the service is good. You've got some good student education efforts going on. I think that there's more room, more to do, but there's some good foundational basis there.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Can you confirm the individuals that answered the polls? Do we know if they're residents within the city limits or have zip codes?
We don't have to.
So this is
actually.
And this is.
I saw on Facebook, go online.
Yeah, it is qualitative data, but we see the same things we don't get about what's qualitative. Some of the strengths that we saw in looking at all this, there's a family friendly. And then the is a strength. From a weakness standpoint, the traffic thing, that's a
It's the
weakness.
whole region.
It's a whole region. It took us forever to get here from the airport yesterday. There was some crash in the turnpike. I mean, it's just the nature of Florida in a lot of ways. The perception that we've already talked about. And then the location of jobs. So people living here and working elsewhere, but more people wanting to live in this place that I think big community. Opportunities, there's some redevelopment opportunities here. The connection to the Florida Turnpike is an opportunity. And we really have an opportunity to be a destination city. The bones here, Alex, there's some real positive attributes to this place. And as more people come here, what does that look like to really make this the destination hub? And then the challenges, the economics of the community, the nature of the jobs here, household income levels are a challenge. Housing access is a challenge in the community. Infrastructure challenges tied to the roads, and then that identity and that being that complete place. So that's what we started.
And that's not always been the case.
Yeah.
We all been to that over the last 30 years.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And to a certain extent, you can say pre-entry and post-entry,
Yeah.
but an evolution of time, the hometown mom and pop long-term businesses. Look, we're a city that's 13 years old now. So businesses only go so many generations. People die.
Farming
People
communities,
retire. The change in the impact of the agricultural economy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we never really had gated communities until the early 2000s, still 2005. Concurrently in 2008, folks came here for the housing value, relative value then, with no ties to the community other than the same house that they were buying here, same house in Kendall would be $100,000 more. They were willing to trade that commute for that savings.
And they also enjoyed the traffic. They also were enjoying the minimum traffic at that time.
Traffic was not the issue that it is today.
Mm-hmm.
So that is true. The majority of our population that lives on the east side don't have deep roots.
We're newbies.
Yeah.
Even after 20, 25 years, because you don't have that history here. You probably most folks never worked here or in Homestead.
Very true, but with that said, being one that moved down here in 2009, right? And living in one of those the newly developed communities, we have a love for the agricultural surroundings. And so to see those being sold off and being developed little by little, it pains you.
Yeah.
And so you work so hard to try to, live, work, pray, play here in the city, and you feel like you're in Kendall. For that, I would have just stayed in Miami. So trying to recapture that, save what we can, and keep that small town feel while bringing the amenities we need as families, that need jobs and places for our children and things to do. Otherwise, we're leaving to go spend our money.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. Mentioned Tom, I saw that on the campaign trail in November of 23. People want things to do here, whether it be more diversity in dining opportunities, entertainment, things for kids to do. Now, big picture, a destination city we can tie to family friendly and parks and recreation. Hopefully, we're on the cusp of having a major expedited rebuild of a 125-acre regional park here that will play into that. And as we revitalize downtown, I think philosophically with the more mom and pop type amenities, that first and foremost, there are a lot of folks, they still better say, who live in East Homestead, who have never been.
They don't cross the turn.
That's a barrier.
To invite them to our Christmas tree lighting events or the Halloween events or whatever it may be.
And now the rest are creating another deterrent to cross.
Exactly. That I think there's this mentality of almost too There is a battalion to Homestead.
And so I'm gonna add that as a reading.
To bring the east.
To the west, and I think
To the
west
west.
would go to the east with the regional park.
We do for the current dining minutes.
For like the outback, and
Yeah.
when the bonefish and the, when those pop on, that's. All
But
right,
also, in all fairness, I hardly go to any of the restaurants on the east side. It doesn't appeal to me. You know,
I
I
don't
don't
know,
know,
but I don't do the restaurants on the east side.
So question for you
I
all.
would be done.
I do want to make sure we cover all our stuff today. From a strength standpoint, what else would you add to this list?
Strength standpoint, have a strong council.
Yeah. You are very engaged. Sometimes the meetings like, oh my gosh. just
We
like-
have very accessible elected officials.
I like that. You got that, Lucas?
Yes, again, this philosophy of relative affordability
Uh-huh.
for businesses and residents.
The weather, the accessibility to go,
to the national parks.
to the national park.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big on that. Yeah, that is really important.
The keys, of course.
I think also a strength we have is that there is still, I think, a good sense of strong community.
Yeah.
Kind of can still go places and know multiple people.
Yeah.
You gotta make sure you have your. You don't have pajamas on.
If you leave the house, you have to know that you're gonna run into somebody.
I think the thing is,
Even as much as we have, even though we're kind of a bifurcated city, I think a lot of people still have this, they have the feeling of a hometown community that they didn't have in West Kendall or wherever they came from, because, one of our big strengths is we are one of the few municipalities in South Florida who have a real downtown.
Yes.
Whether it's Five City Place or
Yeah.
whatever it may be, the traditional real, you can identify.
Yeah.
This is Homestead, this is the core.
Yeah, so absolutely, that downtown street, and a lot of your neighbors are creating them and manufacturing them, but it's not that real.
That's right.
I
Not
think,
people get it.
Yeah.
I think another strength that we have is our religious community. There are lots of churches in Homestead. We have proper structures, or renting space, or we have churches for Hispanics and Creole. And we've got a Korean church,
Yeah.
if you wanna go to church, Homestead's a good
It's
place
got the
to go.
top right.
And I say that because that lends itself to, if they all want to do something to contribute.
Oh, Lucas, make sure you get downtown.
And what a melting pot was.
For the birthday.
Amazing happen. I lived all around the world almost, and I think that is why I settled here, because I just feel like it's a little piece of all different areas.
So you have that melting pot.
I think tradition as well. We have a longest standing, I think, rodeo, longest-standing, I think it was longest-standing rodeo parade if we didn't have one last year.
Right, rodeos in the 70s here. We have a Good Friday Parade of Breakfast, which is at its 40th.
Yes.
Yeah. Anniversary. We do have legacy events
Mhm.
that are uniquely Homestead.
And that gets to that community hometown feel, so all of that's really good.
Well, I think what we like, we also are celebrating the 40th year fishing tournament.
Uh-huh.
So we have a good strength in our volunteer.
Yeah, oh, good, so good.
Veterans Day parade. So, I think the challenge with that is keeping the new generations
Mhm.
engaged and wanting to continue the legacy. That's where we're finding the.
Let me write that.
One of the, I see as a huge threat to our community. Are the outside forces of legislature preempting our own development views. I mean, I think we want our downtown to be traditional and roadwise. We're not a high-rise, high-density. And over the last few years, the legislature has, and to a certain extent, the county commission, mandated certain levels of intensity and density and development. I don't think this council would ever and we're blessed.
It's a huge threat. In theory, the goal and the impact to create housing affordability, we see that, but you end up diluting the community.
Mhm.
And they don't have these strengths and these values that we have now that just will eliminate what we do love about.
And it's not just housing affordability, it is subsidized.
Correct.
And I think that generally speaking, if you're gonna have a microbrewery downtown, folks in those units are not the families or the folks that can walk downtown and have the $12 craft beer
Yeah.
and $22,
That alignment.
brisket burger. And they've also eroded our ability potentially to obtain tax revenue.
Mhm.
They're non-taxable. It challenges our opportunity for policing. It exacerbates traffic. I'll say, on the record. The fiction of living on transit lines is just that. The jobs are not north and south, the jobs are east and west. And I mean, it's just, it is a shift, at least in my opinion, a shifting of the more or less affluent population. First,
That's been happening since,
so,
for Andrew.
yeah, it really has. And look, high density in South Miami and Pinecrest and Coral Gables, Miami is often very affluent, very high end. There's nothing to indicate that would be the case here. Our history has always been high density or, the less fortunate, not economically viable residents.
Right. I think our plan and development and the way that we strategize is it has to complement the type of businesses that we want to see open up. And so they have to have the disposable income available to go to the malls or the commercial that want to see.
And those mandates could even challenge our downtown.
Yeah.
In theory, someone could come in, assemble blocks of property, demolish it administratively, but very little public input or roadblocks, and do out of character, high rise, high density, subsidized apartments to replace our downtown. Those are real threats.
And I think it would be good exercise for us to kind of also look at what do we already have in place that supports the needs of our elderly, the needs of our, so we can know that have we already checked those boxes?
Yeah, are we good? Do we have what we need? Yeah.
Well, then we're required to do that as part of the affordable housing mandate.
So that'll become.
Yeah, and these new live local ordinances, accessory dwelling unit statutes.
You didn't have
Require us to do that.
I wanted,
the Senate, not in the House.
let's go back here real quick. Let's spend about 5 more minutes on this actually, and then take a break, and then go into mission vision. So I feel like we've had a really good conversation on the strengths, weaknesses and challenges. We've talked about the lack of local control development, preemption by the legislature on lots of different things. That's an issue. Engaging the next generation, I noted, as far as you've got this good civic nonprofit culture now and making sure that carries on. That is so important. Because once that evaporates, it's nearly impossible to rebuild it.
The knowledge gets lost.
The knowledge is lost, the culture, this is what we do as a family, we go through these things. That's so important. Any other weaknesses or challenges that we should add here?
The perception of dirty, it's not a perception of dirty, that's the streets are dirty, there's.
Oh, interesting.
There are signs posted on poles all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, for example,
There's a lot of people.
tomorrow, I think tomorrow an email that this trash has been building up on the street. Gets cleaned up immediately. But there's just so much trash at Homestead. It's amazing. And where is this coming from?
It's called.
It's called.
It's cultural.
You know,
It's called.
it's like a
They're
million.
dumping in the floor. I seen it.
Yeah, my kids do it too, it's disgusting. But also, one of my daughters, don't hate her for it, but Mom, are we outside of Homestead now? I said, why are you saying that? We're literally on Camel Drive right in front of CID, School Center for International. So why do you say that? She goes, oh, because I saw the welcome to Homestead. I said, well, that means that's for the people on the turnpike that they're coming out. well, they should clean it, because it's really right in front of the school. So the children are noticing, and even on our city monuments, that we're not pressure washing it, we're not cleaning it, and it's at the bottom of the totem pole of priorities. But the perception is the first thing you see, and if that's meant to welcome people who aren't from Homestead, that are coming to Homestead off the turnpike, that's what they're seeing.
So that's interesting. Lucas has got that cleanliness, that level of beautification. Anything else that you would add? And then I want to end on opportunities.
If anything comes to mind later.
Look at my list there.
I'm thinking about the garbage and stuff like that. Mostly it's culture about education. I'm telling you because,
The schools, yeah.
and I don't know, even the fathers. My kid came with like 4 for sale signs, like because my wife tells him to do things. I don't feel like my kid don't be doing that, don't pick it up. I have to throw it in the garbage. Yeah.
I just tied to the streets.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I take over now. I can do it.
Community service, Rainbow's service.
There, oh my goodness. Let's talk about opportunities. What else do you think?
Branding,
Okay.
like relations, things becoming that destination city, not just for one destination, multiple. Stop here before you go to the Keys. We should have a Buc-ee's, right there on.
Still on the item line.
Zero landing.
Oh, how to put it in
I
there?
just like,
Yeah.
it was
You take
mentioned
it.
earlier that we're available for staff to also have that for the community to have that perception.
I wasn't even,
of staff.
the best one I would put in here in the new one that we, yeah, Flanagan's.
So that'll be.
That's gonna be good.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
but it shouldn't be with that relation. That should be like, oh, while I'm there.
our 3 most immediate opportunities that are real on the horizon are the development of the regional park, revitalization of downtown, and the attracting whole new job space by working to ensure that the aerospace designation for the area just outside Homestead Air Reserve Base, then we can play off of that and promote our privately owned industrial projects and make a plan. And we can demonstrate to folks in that industry that this is the place to be. Hopefully soon, there's going to be an announcement that a defense contractor that does stuff they can't talk about, also has a product similar to Starlink, is relocating to Homestead. And it's my belief that once they announce they are here, others in the industry will say, hey, what's going on down there? We should take a look.
Who was the basis moving?
I forget the name, but they have classified defense contracts, and they have a product similar to Starlink.
And that's the nature,
Simple, it's out there.
that's the nature of spaceport, is that other communities have just leveraged that into enormous opportunity. Because it's so, it mixes military and civilian. It's a bunch of smaller producers, and boy, we are primed to sing that song that says you are welcome here.
That is the huge opportunity.
And the development of Yale City also.
Yeah.
Global destination.
Anything else to the opportunities?
I think there's an opportunity for us to continue to harness the relationship with the school board, to improve the perception of the school in the city, as well as, expanding the magnet program. What was that magnet theory that we talked about? The magnet program that they were adding, and we were asking what can help to get that magnet.
Does it 90 day vacation?
Well, Southgate High, I think was designated as maybe. So.
I don't think Saturday does, they have mechanics, and they have a dual mechanics with aerospace. But that's outside.
So they said that the only program. See, today is to take out school by day. So the one that is the one.
So South Dade goes there, that's where they go. I understand, but South Dade does go to, yeah, they take half of their class.
And Miami Dade College is very interested and attuned to working with the school board to create that track and be very connected to that aerospace component.
See, I don't know if it's an opportunity, I understand the difficulties with the county. But Homestead should have had term ownership of that base 50 years ago. And I don't know what's been
You're
happening.
annexing it to.
Yeah, and I see that land in Homestead and then we'll have ownership of the base, like other cities around the nation do. You know, that's your base and you have to care for it, take care of it. Everything goes long distance to the city, to the county commission. When it should be residents right here and the job, they have a lot of leverage anyway.
Yeah.
Here, jobs are here, money's here, what have you. I think I would love to look into that if it's available.
Yeah.
How would we discuss that?
So an opportunity.
I think the commission just made up it's fine. That can always be.
Is it 5 years to?
Let's put better connection to the base. I think that's the opportunity, whatever format. Yeah.
It is.
I think.
Well, and it's been difficult. Because the base is kind of isolated.
Our design, really, like we're gonna.
That's just the nature of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The flyer jets will let you know if it needs.
Yeah.
But yeah, to be able to incorporate them, just.
All right, with that, if there's nothing else burning, let's take a break. Let's come back at 11, if that works out. These emails, these calls, we'll come back and start working on mission vision. Three, but then we can go.
What's that?
Yeah.
Good buddy.
Coffee?
Water. There's always sitting next to the other place of water. There's something to it if you want to. Wait. What lunch do you balance? What's that?
Bring your own lunch.
Don't get me jumping on.
That's good.
Oh, you're talking about my favorite mentoring program, Build Your Own Legacy. I want to think about how I'll have to do it.
That your lunch.
The first one.
There is lunch. Did it not?
What's that?
Yes.
And the NATO.
I wanted to sponsor a baseball tournament and basketball, excuse me, tournament. I mentioned that a couple of weeks ago and I haven't heard anything since.
Well, that's a problem with the finance department. So cool.
It's with, there's supposedly something.
I don't know why you give us that money.
Oh, what's the story there?
See, that financial department is a mess. Okay, you assign that money to us, for us to use, and we cannot use it. Because they question us everything. I don't know what we're gonna be doing with that. I think we should fire everybody in the finance department and put new people in there.
We're on social.
Still, even though we lost more.
No, it's not good, that's not good for police.
Oh, really?
Going on anything else?
But I thought they had to wait.
So, the exercise equipment, what you do with it? Then you put it on.
Yes, centralized. Around the space. It's.
Upstairs, there's a fourth floor.
If not.
Another light,
There's
there's
a lot of dead ends, a lot of. I don't know who did the election.
to my friend. How much does it cost to fix these?
So.
These are easy.
They're not, like the electrical contractor has been modeling and changing some of the light fixtures. Some of them are $700 a pop. And the guy coming, changing the fixture. I like, so that I can change it $5. The original fixture was,
Who's the vendor? Do you know the name?
the original vendor, but.
Exactly, it's so easy. I walk in and he's got a kitchen, sun bucket, and one light on there, like a.
Yeah, there's something that.
Oh, really?
I read it now.
Okay,
And he's got, I think we just got a pop up. My parents are doing.
Where are we?
Oh, that's it. Is that what he's reading? And that's, you know what's gonna happen.
What?
After what's next. Regular practice.
He has to pay rent. He found it
Yeah.
in Oklahoma. Oh, you mean here, when he brings it
Bring it down?
in a year and a half, he'll bring it down, but we can park it on the base for
Oh, the-
$80 a month.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Sure. Yeah, because I put it on my house for. I have the space.
Just.
The HOA will get it before it goes over. You can't park an RV anymore.
Yeah.
But
Actually, I made the house that I can a city.
mine's.
The rest we did that. So that we, if you don't invite that,
Yeah.
you're asking people for bringing you on.
Did you go to the truck to the parking lot?
I wanted to go,
Yes.
I wonder if they're gonna be renting space for RVs. Yeah,
but
for
for
RVs
RVs too.
also, I would assume.
I can ask you about concept. Wow. So.
Yeah, whenever if there's a hurricane and my parents were looking for something, I search through all the U-Haul places that offer, they're always full. My parents have to leave.
They're actually kind of. This is a lot of this, I know that it's.
Security,
Yeah.
especially around hurricane season. Yeah, they've done it a couple times where there's a hurricane coming here, so they head up north, but then.
We always have put our speedway in the Sherwood region, come here, and South Florida, they'll drive off, they'll go to the Sherwood Speedway, and then a couple of times the hurricanes and should take force. And then they have to go somewhere else.
Yeah, you can give me something. I don't know what it is, but it's nice to show. The other one, please, so,
You want to park up on that too?
is that what it is? Thank you very much. Where are you guys?
So I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
And we can see some topic.
Yes.
And, okay,
Yeah.
Our firm is that part of the building, they, but I. It was actually written, so we get, it's original, it's speed, and also. Other places, such as I guess, I believe it's. And for the legislature here, I can't fault the readings, but I hope that. If something's always stressful, or states, and I don't. From Miami.
Pastoritas no. Thank you now. They're trying to be good, and then get black coffee.
No more.
You want black coffee?
The first time around, I meant to get black, but now that I tasted that, I'm like, it was. Thank you.
Go bigger.
How big kids?
16, 14, 16. It's sweet.
So the county miles.
And 15 and 6.
I'm so interested that the husband is short
That's why I was late.
Yeah.
That's,
So you
They're
talk
not
about
super
sunshine.
Yeah, not bad. They're like the best sick kids ever. I just feel bad sending them to school. But they're in the like play that game. I was like, at least you guys can.
I really like the dynamic of the.
Whether the sexes,
So the oldest is a boy and that's the girls.
okay.
And so the older two.
That's what I'm happy.
Yeah, so the older two are 18 months apart, and because it's boy and girl, they basically function as twins, which is developmentally, they're really about the same spot. And then the younger that, like nursery, that the older two have with the younger one is
Yeah.
It's not like that with the boys. There's no nurturing.
just. It's 16, 14, and 6. Mine is.
Your kids? Having 31 and 23 and 7 and
You're even more like.
It's gotta be.
Four.
Yeah, 5 out of there, what's their age spring?
28, 25, 23, 28.
Okay.
It makes you.
My son's me was peacefully. So I'm going to go to Yale. But I'm going to Yale, come down. I'm making him go to the US.
Stay in Florida.
I don't know sitting to the
you know, I think everything.
Yeah, your family.
I made every single kilometer study here in Florida. Because I paid Florida prepaid to all of them.
Not going anywhere but Florida.
Yeah, that's it. It's already paid for, so don't even think about it.
Yeah, the child I mean, mother is my kids, we've got 16 state schools in North Carolina, are really fortunate and like. The top one is really, really good, but there's a school for everybody that
Yeah.
is state level tuition, short for similar, so it's like you can go anywhere you want, it's just beyond that, you're on your.
So my son had a SAT score about 15, and not 16.
Wow.
So it's the presidential score at UF. That's my suspect.
Yep.
And he gets my prepaid back.
Oh,
Wow, that's fantastic. At what age? When you're done with college again, or at 18
No,
and release it?
yeah, no, they were paying him as a school.
Oh.
He wants to go to Yale. So dude. Is that not more money? What is free? It doesn't make economic sense. Come on. Hey.
Who wants to get
Oh, please. Oh, please.
It's not her, no, right?
Yes, no.
But she wants to be a traveler, she wants to live in a trailer.
So that's why my brother, that's his girlfriend, she's the travel nights.
They get that.
That's the.
And she wants to be a farmer, like, figure it out.
Get farmer, put the adopter, please.
Yeah.
Especially. They change so quickly. After 7 years, like, all the girls that started, when I was 7, were beautiful at the beginning. At the end, they were like, you're fucking old already.
You get old in school.
And the traffic change and everything. It's incredible.
really. If y'all want to start back early, you can just need to get an opportunity to be catch up.
Well, how much time? Because I didn't leave at 12.
Let's go ahead and get going then if that works, so we can get it, in the next hour, we should get it all the way through mission, vision and tagline, because it's really iterative builds. And we're just looking for ideas and words to these that spark you all. This what we just did here is actually gonna be really, really helpful. In the later step of the process around writing goal statements and all of that, so. If it works, we can jump back on there.
Ready to go?
Oh, we gotta wait,
Over, Councilman.
It's already.
is he right on the balcony?
Yes. it's-
Yeah.
Is this still what it's gonna look like here?
Yeah. So say you want to.
Yes. I'll introduce
Reach out to
you. The questions for small business. Yeah, absolutely.
She could be kind of generation. That's East.
You don't have any heritage.
They have creation for one station.
Didn't we have one on Crum Avenue?
That's the 16 is right in my house.
16?
16 is right behind my house. So if
The old
you,
one, yeah, the original Homestead.
16, yeah,
It's still active?
it's still active.
It's a new.
There's a new building.
Seven.
Then the right, is it ideal location? Should they do it?
I've been off. Saturday, I'm just.
Do they have enough work?
With like,
Oh, yeah, it's, yeah. It's been two years now with the firefighter of the year, so we've been going there a couple times a year, but it's, yeah, it's pretty good. My sister was a paramedic, she had to do her rides there. So there's been,
Would be nice to have them more located in, still in the same area, but again, just one.
so I think for the east side, it's more Station 6. And I wanna say 33. There's one on like 288. Further east.
We need to have a different part.
The county has provision. Which they have not. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So that's
What about
I don't know if you talk, we can file the emergency fire calls, it's the medical calls.
Right.
And Chief Centeno is over all of the ones in the area, he's the chief for all of them, so he would be a very good person. To, yeah, or to talk to and see if we need to advocate. I haven't heard that.
Reason it came up, was fishing for it's the council, was, like, say that the regulation, which is. So I have a regulation from the past. It's one of that to be council skills. Skills.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Why they have this around?
I thought that. So whatever. On phase. That they were selling. The property that was surplus, where the commissary used to be. Minor housing. County scooped all that up. I mean, recently. They got it.
What they
Now
are
they
going to put in,
want to declare it surplus.
is that where they would have to put the soccer field? That's something,
That's.
the location.
Sorry.
which one the hot? With the hot is.
Yeah, the county got like 60 or 80 from. And they got after Homestead makes just for
Your wife.
Yes.
they declared surplus. And within the last year, county received that. It's where the unaccompanied minor facility was, and
Yeah.
John Arms about 6 years ago. It's there, across the street to the north where the commissary is. Basically, it straddles what would be this kingdom.
Okay.
Way out on the base, the original entrance into the base. Slated that for
Are we ready to get back at it?
Yeah.
All right. So over the next hour, we're gonna work on developing mission, vision, and the tagline. So we're We're gonna start right off the bat with the definition. What is a mission statement? So the mission statement really is your purpose for being. It's why cities and counties exist. I will say that city and county mission statements are boring and the same because you all typically exist with the same purpose, right? So it is really the stated intent of what you're here to do and why there's an organization. So we've got some examples here of some mission statements from some of our other clients on this slide. So you'll see here, Holliston provides a diverse and inclusive environment where everyone can live, work, play, learn, and create a small city with a big one. That's what they wanted their mission statement. Yep. St. Charles, Illinois, we provide exceptional services, honor tradition, and foster a thriving community. That's what they feel their mission is. Janesville, Wisconsin, an adaptive and welcoming community enriching life. So those are some examples to kind of get the juices flowing. Some additional examples that are more local to you all. So we didn't do these as a firm, but they're your neighbors. So to serve our city by continuously enhancing quality of life through community engagement, exceptional service and accountability. And then the last example here for Miami Beach, we are committed to providing excellent public service and safety to all who live, work, and play in our vibrant, tropical, historic community. So that's just some ideas of what is out there, because really what we're going to ask you to do now, and Lucas is going to chart note this, is answer some questions. So what is the purpose of the city? What do you do and why, and how do you do your work? So we're going to do this as a group. So just rapid fire. Like, why are you all here? What is the purpose of the city of Homestead?
To serve the people that live in Homestead.
To serve the people that live in Homestead, right?
Let me say that, I think it's.
Yeah, so what we're gonna do is y'all are just gonna give these questions and then we will go off and find a fancy way that fits in. Honestly, the conversation we've already had really gives a sense of where you all are when you're, the field is moving stuff too.
Okay, serve the community. Please forget the handwriting.
What else?
Protect our
Resident, protect the resident.
protect the residents, also to protect our
Way of
way of life and our opportunities, right? We don't want
Okay.
to let it go to the top bit.
Really foster,
There.
foster community.
Foster community. I'll give Lucas a second.
You said foster, sorry.
Community.
Good job.
Okay.
What else?
Something about it being environmental stewards with the national parks.
Didn't forget that.
It's silent.
Environmental steward. What's stewardship?
Siri. You put that on that.
Oh,
Oh.
I thought you were saying, hey Siri.
That's what I heard too.
I think that we've, in the past, we've used the working to create, the live, work, play, learn, create, the motto.
That's over.
Right, is
Yeah,
there anything?
Yeah.
I always ask that question to them, like, where are you on the spectrum of the workplace? And people still really like it. It sounds like for you all, maybe not so much.
Yeah, we've used it over
It's just
and over again.
Cliche.
It's cliche, but at the same time, it is what we're looking for, right? We want to be able to work close to home and have enough things to do. So it's a cheesy way of, exactly.
So a lot of people would be happy with the live and play.
So perhaps we can all.
Work is a longer term thing.
I think also the word that comes to my mind is creating a holistic lifestyle.
Holistic
And when I say holistic, I'm using the word wholly as if we're set apart, right? We're
Yeah.
part of Miami, but we don't want to look like Miami, we don't want to feel like Miami.
Well, maybe almost want you to preserve, a sense of community.
And preserve is the better word versus protect and manage too.
Community, hometown feel, that kind of thing.
So you want to change that one above to preserve way of life and home?
Right,
Preserve instead of protect.
right.
Reserve. So we're wandering into mission land, or vision land right now, which is fine, so we'll discuss that in a minute.
And open this up
Like,
to
what
the
in there,
law.
26, the one community values.
Preserve-
Preserve-
I think that's what-
preserve the way it is. It's only one more house.
Yeah.
You know, you really want to be careful about.
Go ahead and cross off the number 3, because the last one you wrote is exactly what I meant to say.
Gotcha.
Because it's not so much as preserving, not everything. That's number 2.
We need to protect the residents.
Yeah, keep that up.
For this point, we're all encompassing community for holistic life.
Thank you.
Kind of the word, the language for all
Right.
encompassing.
Anything else that you think, any words or ideas that you think is really are important to convey in that purpose, or why we're here?
So using the examples you provided, I'm welcoming, I think is, we want to welcome, right? Come here, build your business here, enjoy the businesses we have down here, so creating a welcome. Like that.
I think to go along those lines, but I think what you key in is the active words, we serve, we foster, what are we serving, or who are we serving? What are we fostering, that, and that will help us to group our ideas as we.
Yes. I'm kind of just brain dumping here.
Oh, no, and that's great, because I mean it, all the language in your terminology, and then we can go off and craft, and you'll have.
Yeah,
Right.
the more you give us, the better.
Yeah.
I like the continuously enhancing quality of life, because you're never done.
Yeah.
Doing that.
Is this a place to mention multi-generational? That's always a big topic, and I don't think we're in the mission statement.
It may,
But it's generational.
so confusing for you, Charlie.
Could you, I want to write that down, and then we can kind of brainstorm how to that later.
Like a great place for all generations.
So we foster multi-generational. And then, of
Or-
course, we can define.
Right, could you even, mold that down into, heritage of families?
Yeah, I love that.
Okay.
Very good.
Because I just think that's
Some cliche.
one of the,
Yeah,
that's one of the essence of call. There's a big territory.
The way you said it, I think it could go something like a multi-generational community, serving residents and visitors, fostering this and that.
I think so, yeah.
So you have already started writing, she said, she's gonna do that again.
A multi-generational community,
Uh-huh.
and then it can say serving our residents and visitors, fostering. Whatever we add in there,
A holistic lifestyle.
Yeah.
and then one more, what else did you say, serving, fostering, and? Did we say another? Preserving, and then at the end, maybe preserving the old,
Yeah, because.
Town field or something. exactly.
Agriculture.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right. And the patriotic, we're gonna say something second floor about you.
Yes.
Sorry, hi.
Yeah.
Kitchen.
Yeah. it's pretty cool.
All the things that we- I- Thank you.
Well, are you working now? Like,
Some play here.
We should include also in that with like in the center, mayor.
Highlighting the uniqueness of our being a gateway, exactly. Now, keep in mind, Florida City uses gateway and they're, so we have to play on those words. Have a. And I want us to be known for our patriotic residents, right? American flags everywhere,
Yeah.
base. I
I
want us to
think
be
we're
a
done.
safe community. Are we, can we,
Let's do this. So you are all in the vision space, so we're just gonna go to the.
if it's in Southgate, can we say that?
Yeah, so the vision, this is aspirational, and this is what you're saying, I want us to be there, I want us to be that, so let's bring the vision time. And so one of the things, positions you want it to be aspirational. So we have the examples here. DuPage County, is a hub of economic vitality, expansive natural spaces, high quality services, and prides itself on being a place for all can thrive. That's actually where we. Paulson, together we nurture a safe, vibrant, sustainable, and inclusive community with equitable opportunities that all can thrive by cultivating our past and future cultural resources. That's a long one. One of the things, I like these a little bit shorter, I'll just do that, so it's snappy.
Where would these be? Where would these go? I understand the mission statement on our side, it's like a motto, but where would the vision statement go?
The vision statement goes with it, right? So
Right,
it's like a package, so it's like your vision, mission, and then your core values. It's really, and then your, who are you as an organization and what do you want to convey? I always like to present this as when it's new employee orientation day, what are the key things from that sheet of paper? This is who we are.
And it also goes with all major publications from the state.
Yeah.
Yeah, the budget. Yeah, my beaches. That has to be, yeah, it's necessary.
And for me, the vision and the tagline kind of, we kind of hit around, Homestead is where the future of South Florida lives, kind of lay on.
Continually
on that.
enhancing the way we live.
I'd like to, I'd like to try to attract individuals that love nature, right? Because if we're gonna be, betting on the fact that we're a gateway and that we're between two national parks, well, the people who live in the city should love that too. We should want to attract people who want to spend time in the Keys and Biscayne and the Everglades and live here so that it's easy access to those. But the people who like those types of nature environments and being one, with all of that.
The place to get away.
But you
Whatever
don't,
it is.
they won't live in the city limits if we're not, if we've got trash everywhere, if we've got, traffic congestion everywhere.
Right.
You can't drive down the road with your windows down without, hearing, music blasting. And so it's like we have to create the lifestyle in the middle that will help bridge everyone, that's whether they're coming to visit.
Yeah.
Because they're not gonna wanna go to the restaurants if the culture in the city doesn't match the culture that we're trying to say that we are gateway to their these places. They're gonna skip us and get some keys. They're gonna skip us and just go to Biscayne. So I think our mission and our vision should try to develop that.
Let's.
I don't think I said it right, but I think you.
No, I hear the essence of what you're saying. Let's look at some of these prompt questions. So you were just talking about where you said the city in the state, right? Like it's this place where people come to, they enjoy the natural environment. It's a clean place, it's vibrant, it's pleasant, it's attractive.
Oh, we
What
have
about
to
this?
emphasize on what the city offered, the whole state. Now with that, the NASCAR series and everything over here, we should
With all the agriculture that we have down here, the nurseries, we should have the most beautifully landscaped cities and streets or residences and streets, and we don't have that. We have trees cut off at the stump from 20 years ago. We have weeds, we have, there's no color,
Sure.
bougainvilleas and.
Yeah.
You look to the gated communities that have a lot of the landscaping, I think, but throughout the public roadways, we should be, I think, playing a role in making the city beautiful that way.
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, these are all really good ideas. These are things that you want your community to be. This is how you want your community to look. How can we turn that into a vision statement, like a specific statement? The vision is what you want your city to look like, what you want your community to look like. The mission statement is like how you get there, right? So what's your vision? If you could put it in
We don't need a sense.
we have been working on that, babe.
Yeah.
We already have a beautification project that we're planting a lot of trees and stuff like that.
That's true.
So I hear beautification. It's a beautiful place. That's part of the vision. What we want to see.
So we honor our heritage, our homestead heritage with a firm vision to the.
So part of the vision too is honoring what this place is.
Kind of like we do that in our seal with the military. and
The patriotic,
Heritage, you know.
the vision.
Patriotic.
Homestead is our homestead.
I want us to be seen as
Yeah.
the friendliest and safest city in South Dade. I claim that. So everybody have- There you go, capital of South Dade.
Capital city of South Bend. That's our story of
Visit the
perspective.
capital before you go to the Keys and.
Just like, we're gonna claim the title of the biggest and the southernmost planets.
So the capital of South. Any other thing?
Safest, I don't see safest on.
Yeah, right, safe.
I would say, yeah.
Friendliest, safest. It's a challenge.
Plenty of people to describe you, friendliest, safest, capital of South Bay, any other ways?
Clean. I said, one of these here says, expansive natural spaces. I mean, other than Rosser Park, what is expansive natural space that we have? Maybe it does sports complex, we'll check that box later, but it's one location, I think we should. And if you don't have the space, right, if you have the landscaping, you have luscious.
Yeah. Lush, however.
Vibrant.
What about the notion that we heard about on the community forums from staff and anything about this? They used to do complete community, is that part of this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the way we're playing now, saying.
Right.
Vibrant gets it better, I think sometimes, it implies it, but definitely it's, you know.
Yeah, I would like a more action-based word.
Yeah. I think I have a sense of the essence of what you all are trying to get with the vision and the mission. I really do. Anything missing that you all know that we have? Like I said, our job is to go off and craft options for you all, and always what happens is people take like some parts of this, some parts of that.
Something about being family friendly.
And
I know.
Family oriented.
The family oriented.
you talk about multi-generational information, so.
So we want the vision to be business friendly.
Yes, absolutely.
I was going to say the same thing.
Business friendly.
Yeah,
But friendly.
we should put in there that we always try to improve our services to help the people that we help here.
That's pretty good about the raw material.
There's a lot to go out with here.
Yeah, there really is.
In different areas, we have the nature aspect, we want people in the community to be able to connect with everything that's around, but also attract business, and so there's, a lot of different.
I mean, this goes without having to say diverse, celebrate
Cultural.
diversity.
So what I want to do now, y'all like, you have, set record speed on this, usually this takes a little bit of time, so I love it. The next activity we have is around the timeline. And so, your timeline is a memorable phrase or slogan that's designed, it is really for external audience and part of your thing, CDR. And it answers the question, really, what is the essence? I think you mentioned the word essence perfectly. What is this place? And so you've talked a lot about the essence of this place. When you think about the tagline and the branding, or you talked about the capital of South Dade, are there any other kind of nuances or things you'd like to share that would help us form some tagline ideas for you?
The hometown of South Florida. Yeah,
So Florida, anything with the national parks that you want to think about from a tagline standpoint?
We have on our, because it's New York City, right? Gateway to.
or cities playing with that. But
Within the gateway to the Keys, but we can be the gateway to the national park. Maybe, it's kind of
I
difficult.
think using gateway twice.
It's difficult, yeah.
What's another word for hometown?
I already told you, I say homestead, is a homestead. Your homestead is the best place that you can be.
But if there's like another word for a hometown, I see it in the sense of saying a hometown feel. But just to say South Florida's blank, you know, South Florida's hometown, but not hometown.
Capital South Bay.
No, but not in Donna. Do y'all kind of agree with that? Some of that?
Do you know?
I do.
Yes.
I see consensus on that. Let us take that and go
Okay.
with it.
I'll
Yeah.
write down hometown, but what could be?
So South Florida's.
Hometown, but not hometown.
Hometown, South Florida's hometown, but not.
Well, we got Boots, Motherland.
It's a little trashy.
I think the, Elon Musk go motherland is there.
I know. Lucas, I really think we can work with this.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, if you feel good, I feel good.
I feel it's great.
And I said that was going to be never anyways to it. So well done.
To the extent it helps you, you know, we're the second oldest city, second only to Miami.
In Florida,
In
Yeah.
we have a linear park that connects.
the trail.
That's right, yeah.
Nice trail.
I think that we should, that place is amazing, that what we have done there.
It goes by.
You can buy people like,
Oh, you mean, the green, you mean the Greenway?
Everett Lakes National Park, and Biscayne National Park.
The Greenway Trail.
The Greenway Trail.
Okay, is that fully done or is that?
No, phase one is
It's
done.
done in the city,
Okay,
but not to the east and west,
okay.
to the parks.
Yes, that's.
eventually it's gonna be done, I think.
And it's like half of phase one, because phase one also included the little structures and then it was, so, but I would love for people who love to be outdoors, this is their place to live.
I go with my kids and ride in a bicycle there.
Where do you start? Where do you park
Right
your
there.
car?
No.
Really?
How,
I guess
How long did it take you to do it? With the kids?
with the kids, like
12 hours.
like 2 hours.
Much as I'm not very into that.
Yeah.
Any fire?
Right,
But
well,
with
let's,
the kids, it's complicated because they see it, they stop and they. That's why.
Which reminds me though, the canal, is very, I think it's Kingman, super dirty again.
It's always like that.
It's, until we complain.
You know something? I complain to that public so much about the cars.
Oh, yeah.
They put the locks in there. But people will go out of the public and they will throw like everything in the canal.
all right, let's move on to core values. So we're shifting gears, we've got the raw material for the mission, vision, tagline. Now core values are really, it's got some fancy words here, precepts that guide an organization through all its life circumstances. I like to say core values is how you show up every day, right? Like how you treat people, what does that look like? What are your expectations of how you treat one another? How you treat the community, how staff treats you, how staff treats the community. Really that ethic, and it's that, I've already mentioned, it's that first day of employee orientation. What are the key behaviors that you really want people to learn and show about how the
The
organization?
beginning, which
Values, in part from a preceding book, because you can look at those action words.
what I'm finding here and also.
That would be a piece of this, and then we're gonna do some additional as well. So, because there has been some work that has occurred in the organization, I'm hoping to Ashley, the manager, to help me a little bit with some context, I think, about some of the work that y'all have been working with staff, but from a local standpoint, Doral, their core values are integrity, family, excellent service, communication, and teamwork. I like it, and I always recommend, and some clients do this and some don't, that you define what those words mean. Because those words on the page about the definition, actually people can interpret them in different ways. Integrity is some of those words that, there really needs to be some specificity around what that is. Or what does excellent service mean, but, that's their, group of core values. Existing team values, I think this is the work that the manager's been doing. Am I right on that? With the team around communicate effectively, also the notion of communication. Work as a team to achieve success, be committed,
I like align goals with customers.
align goals with customers, clients, and then support the organization's mission, business strategy. Do you want to add any context to this around what this is or what this means to you all?
And it's, again, we talk about align goals for customer clients. Yeah, it's like, I think it's still that down to working for you.
Yes.
Right, that's resident first, from Homestead first approach.
Okay, let's capture that. So what you like about this, with the aligned goals with customers and clients, is a resident-centric approach.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and then I,
Subject to a lot of criticism.
right, but then exactly, because then here I am thinking the resident, but really I want owner occupants. I want to do,
Yeah.
I want to do this for the people who own property here that are stakeholders.
But those are the customers who pay.
Business, the
resident.
businesses and the property owners, of course, yes, we serve our residents, but if you have a higher percentage of tenant occupants, they don't really carry the same goals, at least. There's
Both-
perception of
I
it.
think from residents, that would be setting the criticism that we're developing.
Good point.
It'd be very different. So,
So a resident-centric approach. I guess
So
so
if you don't say resident, right, Homestead,
Yeah. And it's that solution-oriented problem solving, I think would be a build out of that definition, like some conversation we had earlier. How about, let's start at the top. How do you feel about the communicate effectively? Is that something that you think is important from a good value standpoint that you'd like to carry forward?
I think it's ambiguous. I like the specificity of aligned with customers and clients, customer service.
well, I think, yes, but I think with the communicate effectively, multiple customer oriented methodology.
Yeah.
Sure. But yeah, we always say communicate in itself a value to start. Are you communicating effectively through that your customer is?
Yeah, and that is one thing that the data showed us in the environmental scan that Homestead is doing well, that communication piece. We did have a slight discussion about that earlier as well, by making sure that the communication is clear and concise and can't be misconstrued. How sometimes Homestead gets associated with essentially negative price, so that could be part of the communicate effectively piece, similar to what I was saying earlier. It's important to sometimes find somebody, and so to communicate effectively, it's maybe a little vague on the slide, and so if we want that to be a core value, then we can go further and deeper and define that more.
With transparency all the time.
Absolutely.
I think that's the.
That's the one that you're there to see.
Communication.
Kind of going back, it's, you really gotta define homestead. I think there, as we do our own specialized street signage, when you come into Homestead, so you want to quote it, it's my customer, you know you have crossed into that city. So visually, when you're on the ground, you've got that, you still have that media, the geographical perception,
Of course.
that we have to be better on.
I guess one way to also think about it is, in the private sector, different companies have their own core values, they have a different perception, they have a different image. Like if you pick up a Samsung phone versus an iPhone, they look completely different, they operate differently, the companies stand for something different, right? What image does Homestead want to have? I want visitors when they come into Homestead that they see and recognize that, oh, I'm in Homestead right now, and I know, I feel it.
But this is where I want to live. Cross the city line and say, yeah, this is where. I don't define it.
Welcoming.
Yeah, what about people, feel they come in clean and vibrant, not dirty and not empty storefronts,
And not rushing to leave.
and not a bunch of junk signs up and down, people just want to get out.
Welcoming with a sense of heritage.
So what,
I love that.
And I'll go with losing the farms for it still to be somewhere that feels more not as congested and more green.
Countryside view?
Something.
Countryside.
Is that
Getting more. Yeah,
Well, the residents-
whatever the next level is, after the suburbs, but if there's a birthday area outside the suburbs before you get into
Many
rural.
Right.
They go over, that's what we want to be.
I,
Many about, you like driving the road coming over here, before you get over here, it's like you're in the country. Once you get,
Until they build it all out, because eventually, then how long are our visions and mission statements valid
Good
for?
for-
But they're all-
So like, what farms?
There was the.
Yeah, I've often thought in terms of separate, distinct, and unique. That like historically, Homestead was very remote from the rest of the county, getting there was,
it was a journey.
it's an destination, clear distinction.
Yeah.
So we're separate, we were distinct in the old days, but for agriculture. We still can be with the feel that you get, the positive feel that you get,
Yeah.
those visual cues that you get, just like the land of Fort Vegas, for example,
Yeah.
that you're now in Homestead.
Right.
And just, our uniqueness, we have our downtown. Reinvigorated those kinds of.
Yeah.
Is
We're
it
just
an
not
adventure?
purposeful.
Is it an adventure to visit and to live in Homestead?
Yeah.
Yes.
It is now too, but how can we make that an adventure that you want to have over and over?
So I want to ask a clarifying question. When you say that Homestead is an adventure, you mean that in a negative sense or?
In a maybe it's currently a negative sense to some people, but how do we change that narrative where we have the first Iberian in the world in our city? We have the sports complex, we have the access to not one, but 2 national parks plus the Keys. So,
Championship for me.
the championship, not
and one of the best things,
But a something,
To say.
adventure to visit. And then
something.
Oh, that would be a good one.
So if I may come in, most asylums, states rural and poor. Perhaps using some of these event type and innovative concepts and programs and events to counter that narrative. The Homestead is the hometown of whereas the last time,
Southwest Hill
traffic and
future lives here.
future lives here.
Future lives here.
where the past and the future meets.
Oh, that's a. I'll work on this.
Look at it.
All right. I love how iterative this process is, right?
For the past and the future, I love it.
All right. I want to bring us back to the core values.
We gotta tag it.
I have one more question on the core values. This notion of commitment is the word doing what you say. Do you like that word?
Yes, commitment.
So like the word commitment. And then the next slide I have is
But
there's,
we don't have anything there that says professional conductor. We conduct ourselves professionally. Would that be something there or?
But in the word trust, is that includes?
Yeah. Add trust, professional.
I think effective, efficient, trusting and transparent, kind of denotes the
Exactly.
professionalism.
It to be,
Like a professional conduct, trust, was there anything that I missed?
yes, but you just said
Effective and efficient.
Yes.
transparent and trusting.
Any other words that you all would expect to see in the value space that you want us to work with? And we'll work with staff on this too. This one is really.
No longer the big sky.
Kind, compassionate, but those are not the words. It's like whatever you can harness to do that.
Sorry, Karen, just really quick, one thing I heard that I wanted to address is the ability to maintain certain vision going forward in the generations to come. That's also the benefit of these vision value statements and establishment core values, because you create that identity for the community, and it'll attract people who want to be part of that identity, and by doing so, you bring a certain type of mindset into the community that can carry on that torch in future generations. So that's also important. So something that activities.
Can we use the word captivating in a way? There's captivating business, captivating.
Things to do.
Right, the next slide I'd like to get your reaction to is this is the existing each state. So it's City of Homestead has outstanding managers responsible at all times, delivering exceptional services to the community. Anything here spark words that you want to make sure we have on our core values?
This is the first time I see this.
This has not been socialized.
When did this get created?
It's in the
Do you
books.
know?
No,
Based on history?
is it a long term or is it?
Is it common for it to be a vertical?
That's the first time I've seen it.
Yeah.
We've been here since June.
I was just saying, okay, that says comments.
Yeah.
It didn't sound, this is my bad, it didn't sound futuristic. There's not accountability or integrity involved. It was one of the reasons I said, listen, it's not actually a sense of city administration.
And that has nothing to do with team, if you're saying that the managers are responsible at all times.
It was kind of
So,
low level.
It's got a negative
I mean,
connotation, not
Yeah,
positive.
if that's something, I can say, most of that's professional managers delivering exceptional services.
Right, that's good.
Here, that's just,
What are some examples?
let's just throw stuff at this.
Yeah,
So here's some core values. I hear y'all, I don't like that statement.
Say it again.
Yeah, this one is from New Braunfels, Texas. This was a project I worked on, finished about a year ago. So here are their core values: integrity, service, visionary leadership, stewardship of resources, and fiscal responsibility. So this is how they define integrity. Service, they're responsive and respectful to those we serve with an attitude that everything is worth our best effort. I just really.
That's really nice.
I really like that one.
So that captures the, kindness and compassion.
Yeah, yeah. Stewardship of resources. This community is really fascinating because it was really founded from Mexico and a German principality, where the entire German principality came over in the 1840s and reestablished itself in this middle of nowhere Texas. And so they've got these historic generational families. And a culture that is really easy to tie to that and the Mexican heritage, because the Mexican government granted them the land. And that has been who they were. And then all of a sudden Texas has exploded and they're in between Austin and San Antonio, so they have all those newcomers coming. So maintaining that uniqueness is really important to them, so they put it in our core values.
Similar to what we're.
Which I heard some threads of that, which is one of the reasons I wanted to share that.
However, given the age of our community, the natural evolution of faith, there are very few, maybe 3 or 4 families left with ties to the early days of Homestead. People have died out, moved away, and I think that's probably a natural evolution. That, we've got a bunch of new folks on the east side, we don't know, they don't care, and that's not said to me anyway. And it doesn't matter. So, we are in a huge shift of perspective. A lot of folks on the east side don't realize that they're living on what used to be corn and potato fields, where somebody's farmstead is here. Right, that's over.
Yeah.
There's very little big left back to the early days.
Yeah, and that puts me in a position where as a representative for the east side, I have such an affinity for the old homestead. And so for me, I guess I take it for granted that I know all this stuff, or that I'm in it with the engagement with community and the nonprofits. I'm being involved with the city, but how can I teach my residents and help them engage to foster the same love?
Well, to come to appreciate what we got there.
And can we attract some of those people that left to come back? Is there a possibility for that, or is it worth even trying to do that?
It's more engaging the folks to come to Old Homestead and take part in what was once a very vibrant.
It's not so much about revitalizing downtown, but Old Homestead in general. Because that would be
Culture and that's what- All right, anything, oh, you're good, anything on this that prompts something that you want to add to the list of words that you want to look at from?
Not that I want to copy something else, but I love the service, I love the stewardship of the resources one, the fiscal responsibility,
Is that something you
the
want?
word prudence, you know, I mean, visionary.
I would look at those as a different order of priority
Right.
than they have in here.
Yeah.
You know, I think visionary leadership and the financial responsibility are, you know, if that is.
And the fact that they, not only did they say that, okay, we're anticipating the need, we're looking to our community's future, but we execute. There's a lot of stuff that we're doing that is never happens or takes 20 years to happen. And so now we're, I think, executing, making it a real reality.
And there's that unique heritage again, military, agriculture, bootlegging and moonshining. All of that, you know, we had a distillery that was like up there. And they were really fascinated with the history of, you know, during Prohibition, that out here in the middle of nowhere, 6 feet high, a lot of families had their stills down in the Everglades. And they were well known for the quality of their alcohol.
Yeah,
I'm Puerto Rico, we call it people. We still have it today.
in Chicago, we call them mom.
They get it from here in the mountains.
Yeah.
The activity slide on this, oh no.
How did you get it started from here?
Right.
I think we've talked about this. The question is what values actively capture, how you all would like the organization to carry out its mission and vision. Anything missing here? Similar to the mission, which I feel like we get a sense of where you all want to go, what you value, what's important to you.
It's kind of inherent that, you know, deal with things promptly and efficiently.
Right, yeah.
Like, say those specific word, but it's.
It's like bringing Homestead into the future with the vision of responsibility. Like we have like things that the works supposed to be done years ago. And when you do it right now, those people benefit, Homestead is gonna benefit. And so like but number 32, chief.
The infrastructure, like we're so behind, you know, we want to look to the future, but we need to catch up with what's been put on the back burner too. And, you know, I know that we don't have in the city limits, much of it, like E5 still has some across the street. When I did the video with Hagen, we captured the tractor on the road.
Yeah.
And I'm like, to 2025, and I have that in one of my social media videos. But maybe there's a way that we can bring the outside in the sense of the Redlands, right? They're our neighbors. And so making sure that there's a direct connection to pop-up agricultural experiences, you know, NASCAR doesn't have to be just once a year or at the track. How can we bring NASCAR to a pop-up, come take pictures in Lazo Park with a race car? I don't know if it's possible, but
Would be cool.
it would be cool. It might bring the resident, it might bring the east side to the west side, but then also as a east side resident, parking and going through the traffic congestion, once we do have those events, everything locks down and you're stuck for 30 minutes unless you're there an hour early. So ease of access to make it worth leaving the comfort of the home, getting to it. maybe activating the trolleys. We had the
I was
Homestead
just gonna
rodeo.
say, if it's an event like that, we need to do the trolleys.
Trolleys, but then we had the rodeo here, and here I am seeing
Nobody taking the
the
trolleys.
trolleys were not available. And so there were loads of people walking, it was cold, and they were walking in their boots and their, rodeo fashion, and baby strollers and kids walking a mile to get from their parking that was allocated to the rodeo. So, you experience that once as a parent, and you say, I'm not going back.
Yeah.
Everyone complains about public transportation, but then
Yeah.
it's so hard to get into the mindset. You go to New York and they're like, why would you wanna walk? We can jump on this or that.
Yeah.
But here it's a whole nother story.
We have to change the narrative about the public transportation and how the ease of getting to and from the beach. So, all right, I know that's probably.
Priorities rolling, but that's gonna be kind of, here's what here's what I wanna do. I think that we are in really good shape with core values. Lunch is obviously here. Our next thing that we're gonna do is strategic priorities. So I've got two options for y'all as a group. We can walk through the instructions on the strategic priorities, talk about what they are, because we start with an individual reflection and y'all can think about that while you're eating lunch. Or we can break for lunch now.
Work through lunch.
You wanna work through lunch? Okay.
Yeah, I need to go sit.
Okay, well, look at this. Let me introduce.
Sorry, you guys aren't gonna get a lunch break.
It's, yeah, let me introduce the strategic priorities. Go get your lunch and then you can do the individual part of the work while you're eating. Sound good?
Yeah.
That work for everybody? So strategic priorities, these are really the main areas of focus, right? So if we're thinking about the strategic plan, you've got your mission, vision, and these are the 4 to 6 things and categories of work that we do. You want them to be broad categories. It's really best when you create categories that can live on through multiple life cycles of the strategic plan. So they become institutionalized with your staff, institutionalized with how you organize your budget. So that's what we're trying to do here. And it's really where you're focusing to realize your vision. So here are some examples of local government strategic priorities. Building trust. There are a lot of local governments that really struggle with that trust thing. You all,
We have it, so.
You have it, but for some, that's a really important area of focus. Safe and healthy community, vibrant lifestyle, thriving economy, exceptional public services. So those are some examples that are out there. Other ones, public safety is often a strategic focus area for local governments because of the work that you all do and the importance of that. Transportation tends to be one, infrastructure. Those are just some options that are out there. So we're gonna do our first individual exercise with this. So what I want y'all to do is go get your lunch and come back and write down either on a PowerPoint deck, scratch with a piece of paper, what you think are the important priority areas for the city to focus, what you would choose instead. So that's task one. Then I'll walk through the rest. Then we'll whether do small group, we'll probably just do a large group. The way this has been flowing and see what you all have that's the same, what's different, where we need as far as that goes. Make sense? So I believe actually the directions for lunch, if you could help me with that.
So just prefer I set it up right here or
If it's ready,
it's ready right here.
Okay, perfect.
Wait for seconds.
It's time to go away. I just kind of want to.
Oh, no, that's fine. Actually, just do that right there. Or we can put everything.
Yeah, I'll slide it in. Just so at least the screen is so people can see. Video.
Got it.
And I know a lot of you have to leave, which is fine, but we can get through the strategic priorities. We will have enough to work on the next week, which is for really.
You guys should gotta play it, have a 2x12 room.
We will do that.
If not, you have to.
Okay, first, I'm gonna, yeah, I got one. So, 10. It's relevant.
It's good. That was good.
Really too early? What do you mean?
And now,
One thing of blue moon.
I know, she is.
No, I said it, I'm like, wait a minute.
Oh.
Sometimes it's hard. So
Yeah.
I just been that right spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you.
Yeah, grab your plate and then Lucas and Alfred while you're working.
So nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been really good.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no?
Right now.
Do you think we'll be done after we get my daughter at 3?
Oh, yes, I actually think we're
Seems
gonna
like we're
be,
all through.
here's what I wanna do. Because y'all are moving.
Well, and I-
I think when I would do this priority, I think we'll get some more raw material, we'll all explain those and we'll just. Take that all the time. So I'm thinking we'll be done.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a refill certification or black belt
I
certification?
do not.
Yeah.
Because
Are you-
I used to do that in the Air Force, and
Yeah.
once you're following the playbook, you know,
Yeah.
it really does work, and particularly with a good team like this.
Right.
We have differences of opinion, but nobody's, you know, all offended that you're not agreeing with my
Yeah.
description of blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Sometimes you have that, but here we don't. You know,
Yeah.
there's some-
What I love is y'all are rapid fire and
Yeah.
like sometimes it takes a while to cool that. The
Yeah.
vibe, but y'all are.
We did one of these things at the base one time, because you know, physical fitness is a big
Yeah.
deal. And you have to take your PT test. What was happening is you take your PT test at 6:30, but the troops wouldn't get back to work until like noon. So it was like, here you're killing
Yeah.
half a day for taking a 45-minute PT test. So, but anyway, we're going through that. I had one guy walk out. He was so offended. How dare you talk about my program? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, dude, you need to. Yeah, it's still around, but if I can PT.
Yeah, one, thing that I always said, notice about your group is that you all work very well together. And it has this, I guess it's like just an emotional intelligence, like we all live here, we all want to make people better, I mean, we have differences, but like, how can we work together?
It's kind of neat how teams have personalities. This team is really pretty strong.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah,
good.
absolutely. It's really cool to see the dynamics, the relationships, too, like everybody exchange to help. So, you know, that's cool. That's something great about me, that how we see each other. So it's good.
This has been a neat exercise.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I get it, how challenging it can be to.
Well, sometimes,
Spread it out.
yeah. Sometimes.
Get lost there. Get lost.
Yeah.
I have literally.
You can call me, my son is very worse, I don't have a big.
I don't want to be using now or making that up. I just think that there are.
It's fun and it is. At the base, everything about.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
For her.
Yeah.
And we did one of these things.
Uh-huh.
Like those big stones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had several of those. I have. Put it on the table, and I said, this is us. And I said, for her, and got this big stone, I threw it in. After, and that's the part of the kitchen staff, they put a bunch of number 10 cans
Uh-huh.
and food bottles and stuff, and I picked it up and I threw it in the garbage can.
Yeah.
This is after Hurricane Andrew. We didn't start thinking today. I think it's kind of cool that was that moment that visual things.
Yeah.
That's really,
I mean,
This is what I do.
no, that's very creative and thoughtful exercise. Shift the frame, you know, and get people to think a little different.
Yeah.
And like,
Y'all have work to do. So we're gonna get into it. I'm gonna go back to play.
yeah, that's.
I don't see any smoke.
Yesterday was terrible. We were, I was with Swag, we're handing out Mother's Day little things to some of the seniors in the supplements, and all of a sudden I looked up and I was like, but it's card sounder. This. It'll check out.
Another one this week?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, very nice to meet you. I was like, can you believe that I'm wearing civilian clothes? He looked at me and he's like, I was like this is like one of my favorites.
Don't even need that here.
You live in Homestead?
Yeah.
This is crazy.
I'm not familiar with this yet, but.
There
I
should,
would have gone through the support, but
there's only one song that I'm able. So we're going to try it out.
we're at K11.
Huh?
We're at K11.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna just check it to make sure that I can something fixed. Okay.
Yes.
Couple of layers, cherries, cherry pie, layers, with cream icing, blueberries, and strawberries.
Let's take this best.
There.
Yes, I know something a little bit, thank you. It was.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Okay, it's in the shell.
Let's table now.
Yeah.
And here. That's in my dog. This is. The initial. I asked everybody. Three lines.
I like that stuff by us. It's fine, it's fine. Probably might need to
For the show.
Oh, maybe one is the employee.
What they're in employee?
Yeah, there's this employee one.
A lot of it is.
Catering,
By furniture.
It's really fast. These last food.
Are your desks also in your office terrible? I get up and it's just like fingerprints after your finger.
Say that word. So we got this.
Look at our value,
Please.
I need some help identifying the difference between, for example, this slide and this slide, it's the same question, design verification.
Yes.
But they're different terms, value, so it's one employee.
Yes, most likely it was.
Can you let us know?
I can try, yes, I was, let's say, it was added to this project. Recently, so I can, so we can move on to speak.
Maybe it's where that.
And then, and I was. You're gonna see him, but I don't see. Mayor, you want to talk to Blair?
Three officers.
Yeah, you're going to stay with, which, what's the question? Summer college.
It's real life abilities.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I think so.
Yeah.
It's
That's.
Great. I read or read that meeting. All right.
Yeah, not enough. Yeah.
Really, it's not gonna issue software.
Yeah, builders.
Wonder how many people.
Probably not many.
Well, there's vacancy, correct? The, or truly burden, the.
I'm almost shutting my face. It's reading just a minute. That's all. Oops, sorry. I'm gonna come back that way.
Could you tell me which figures you were looking at?
So for example,
Yeah.
so page 9. Page 9.
That's not like for.
Yes, I thought I asked for.
So that one has the same, it's the same slide as 16.
Yes, you don't like to make mistakes.
Well, that's what I had asked earlier. That's not really advisable public, but I assumed it was employees. So correcting myself, so just double check me, because I'm thinking it is employee as it follows for the.
Right, that would make sense.
But I didn't know.
Of course, absolutely. We very well.
Like there were the two different authorities for the public,
Yeah.
insurance, missing employee, but that's.
Absolutely. Is, yeah. So slide on 9, it's 16.
They're looking for the exact same header, but different results, so I'm assuming you're right, 16 should reflect employee. Not
Yeah.
when it says interviews, was that employee interview
I believe so as well. I will,
versus the community forum, right?
yes, I will compare them. Yeah, I was at this project like last week. Thank you, I appreciate it. So yeah, just getting a little else with the background information on this, but I will jump look at those. Just trying to get some interest for it. I wasn't spending.
There's plenty of good. So the. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't think that was down pretty. We're very efficient.
Yeah.
Very efficient. But we wanted to get extra room just in case the dialogue went further, so better to.
Absolutely. Please let the staff know that there's food if it's left over.
It's not, we would definitely make sure that. You know, we.
And Jen.
No,
I mean, just walk out of my house, got my marker bag, but I guess we're.
Flip chart markers if we need.
I think we're good. I think I have just enough for the group. I realize that. That's not good.
I feel like I need to go even if it's like I can. Yeah. Ten o'clock last night, some of them from my reception check from your office. Anyway, it seems like.
All right, so I'm gonna give you all the next piece of the instruction. What I'm gonna want you to do is as you're thinking of your priority areas, if you could write, I'm gonna give an example. Whoops.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'll give a different.
We're waiting for you at the top.
Yeah.
Although we figured it out, it's not.
16 have the same question. It's like it's not 5. The response for each.
But I asked earlier, the one page 15, I advised that was the public, but it's being use that logic to employee as it follows the.
Oh, okay.
And we have the same 5 page 9, that's within the public section.
It's the responsible.
The responsibility.
I believe there were similar questions that were asked for both the employees and the public. And then there was some that didn't just. So I think when we put this together, we kept some of the questions that were all similar to kind of show overall.
Yeah. And here's where I got to.
Oh, so that's why I write B, combine, you know, the employee.
No, I thought this was just the public. And environment.
I thought
But they have an
But then when it is the same flag, it's like we're being like,
yes, they got it. It's a name. Or you just. Yeah. Oh, no, I found it. Yes, this is-
Uh,
16.
Oh, this name might have been really good.
Right.
it looks like the business.
okay, no.
I got it.
Did you send it out?
Yeah, so that's the area. So I'm 90%, so we'll check with me, the last one is just the
Page
response. Yeah, because of the number of respondents, that's the employee survey.
Yeah, that's what I'm jumping, but
Yeah, like I said, I'm 90% roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just your.
yeah, no, I think it's the same.
Yeah.
Or my other theory is that maybe we did 1679 and then.
But a little bit, yeah.
Sure, yeah. I did have something worse, so.
Okay, and if it is this combination like 18.
Yeah, no worries.
It was that.
Yeah,
That number's. Just like.
yeah, no, that's, the data's correct.
Do any cities have like, you know how Publix has a pleasure to choose?
Where you got it.
Does anybody have like, for it?
Probably, we could get on the Google machine and do some research on that, but I like that. Yeah.
Because I'm thinking like, okay, so like in our roadway, we can prove that in our curb appeal, obviously, that makes it like, whether you're the right one.
Yeah.
Pleasure to move around it.
When Mr. Davis comes back, I'm gonna give you your next instruction, because I'm excited about it, you know, going to sort of get your sheet.
And maybe something with charm and charming, you know,
Charlie?
a charming place.
Let's, yeah, certainly, we can take all those notes and take them back, I wanna make sure that we do it with staff. Put them in.
So they was- they put some-
All right. So. The next instruction is in that middle column. So theoretically, during lunch, while you're eating, you're thinking about the priority areas the city should go. So what I need you to do now, and you can write as many of these as you want, there is no limit. More is better, because I can call that raw material, right? I need you to write 2 to 3 words, what you think the cardio is, 1 word per part. So if you think, I'm just gonna pick a word that has come up a lot. You may not agree with this, but it's come up a lot, that roads should be a priority area. You just write roads on it.
So this is all priorities.
Since it's the priorities. If you think, oh, let's see,
It's got a compilation. of lead
communication.
Curb appeal count as 1 word.
Yep. You just write communication real big, right? If y'all understand, so write those on there and then you'll report out and explain to us what you're talking about. We'll take notes on that. And then that will form the genesis of the priority areas and the goal statements that will go with it. So if y'all will work on that.
So priorities of what we want to see happen in this thing.
Yeah, the focus areas. So there's big, broad categories of focus. Does that help?
Is infrastructure too broad?
No, infrastructure is a great one. It's a very common priority area in local government because it's such an expensive long-term need. Right in here. So, okay.
Really, these would be a reflection of a compilation individually.
So what we're gonna do, someone. Oh, yes. Where is it?
Thanks, Siri.
Oh, it's recording now. Yeah.
And I'm gonna, I just, text message to IT just so for confirmation, so. Yes, I want to finish that.
Okay.
So that we're done.
So you want us to use part group or individually?
Individually.
Oh,
So one idea per part. Because we're gonna do a grouping exercise when you're done. That's the one. And in fact. Y'all can be flexible, we may get you stuff a little bit. And Ashley comes back. Lucas, what I'm thinking, it's actually a case that we have them put their cards on that makes my wall. And talk to them so they'll all be on one spot visually. And then they can. But we have to get that they.
Did you want to move all of us over to that?
Yeah, I think we're going to put it. If not, we can.
No, I think I would just us like more of a each minute open side.
Because it's when it's in. Option. And the camera goes all the way over, so it's still be.
Yeah, I don't think the glue up either, because it had to be stuck on things enough.
Yeah.
Oh, post it.
Yeah. I have not something to get them to you off, but some of these rules that I was. Yeah.
Maybe it'll be a good pretext though, to expand the space a little bit, you know, tear down the wall.
so
How many are we?
As many as you would like.
one word.
2 to 3, if you need 2 to 3 words, that's fine, but it just needs to be a concept of a broad idea. Actually, I have a question for you. Are we allowed to stick with the sticky notes on the wall? Or is that at least the rules? All right,
What if we do the back of doors?
other doors, yeah, okay.
Like that was.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, we need to do the door right here. That's it. Thank you. I'll be happy to. Okay. The doors will probably actually want water, because they won't water off. Easily. I do have to finish it. No, I think it's good. The main appliance is some taking notes or whatever. Very good. Okay. Do we need to wait on this to be, we all start? So, yeah. So here's what's gonna happen, you are going to stand up, you're going to put your stickies on the wall, and you're gonna explain why you have it on the sticky. Lucas is gonna take notes, and we're gonna see what y'all have the same, what's different, and group them a little bit. But maybe we can start sticking out, start writing, yeah. Here's what we're gonna do, you're gonna write your ideas on the paper, we're gonna stick those up. Then we're doing word just to finish paper.
Would that be in order for?
No, because I'm gonna rearrange. Anyways, it's gonna up there, it doesn't really matter. Although that's really ridiculous.
Do you want to group by topic or?
Should I just slap them up there? I didn't think it was by topic, but. Oh, look at that. I've been working together for 3 years. Same time. Since the other.
Yeah,
That's all I think it's learned.
yeah.
We like it over here. You're like, you pass, you know, so you don't see.
Maybe one more. Oh, yeah, but it's all.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be far around. So I'm gonna the site. This is the purpose. The, usually it's like kind of haphazard, because I do it a lot, but yeah, we take all nice and neat. All right, Mr. Davis. All right, so somebody wants to go, you know what, you're good for me, okay. Why don't you go first and talk about, oh, yeah. Okay, that's fine, and then Lucas will take notes, so we capture your definition of what they are, and how they're important.
Sure, perfect. So, I kept trust and transparency up there. As I mentioned before, even though they, the public feels we're doing it well, doesn't mean that it's just like a priority or just lose sight of that. So, that's on there. So we can focus customer service that we discussed. It's not just about making sure we're answering the phone within 30 seconds, but what's the problem? How do we get to the end result? And the quickest and most efficient way to do it. It's part of it. Various luscious outdoor spaces. That would be inclusive of our biking paths, parks, pocket parks that we've talked about in our park plan. And I know that we have several that we've invested in, but I don't think we have enough in all the areas I've met. Business-friendly development services, I think it speaks for itself. Infrastructure. The 22 project that we just got done, we need to see what else needs to be done, similar to that, get it into the plan quickly and something budgeted. Roads or road quality, right? So I'd like to have a city that is beautiful to drive around in, comfortable to drive around in, and it's not having to fix your alignment to get tickets. Traffic congestion, making sure that we're pushing for relief efforts. Signalization of the roadways, and that's mainly with the county, but staying on top of them to make sure that gets done. I mentioned the curb appeal, both private and public. So our notification that we can manage on the city side, but code enforcement should be on top of our commercial. Buildings to make sure that they are keeping up their curb appeal the way that we saw it first on the site. 20 years later, the trees fall down and restore them, but they're replacing them and replenishing their landscaping. An expansive, an expansive job market, not just health jobs. We've got plenty of, medical businesses, but really the office jobs, where the quality of the technology and the administrative market. Plentiful shopping and dining experiences. We have a few great restaurants. That's about it right now. Proactive and engaging public safety approach. I think we're checking off that box now, but making sure that we continue to do so. And then connectivity and engagement, a focused And a focused, historic homestead, whatever, historic homestead focused connectivity and engagement. So like we talked about earlier, getting the east side to the west side and making it easy to get there and to enjoy and to engage.
Thank you for that. Any questions? All right, who's going next?
Can I, because I really like to hear.
You guys.
So I think I kind of started with the most important pieces, and then I went into the things that I just want to make sure continue. That's how my mind went. Public safety, infrastructure, mainly roads, the congestion, the cleanliness, our transparency as a city in general, including customer service. Making sure we are as welcoming as possible. And I feel like that would come from us continuing to be proud of our community, our history, our diversity, our focus on quality of life, our unique charm, being neighborly, inclusive, again, preserving history, and that environmental stewardship, just making sure that we keep that in mind. And the business friendly piece to make sure that we are attracting the right businesses and allowing our residents to work here as well. That's it. Any questions?
All right, who's going next?
Well, obviously, I have infrastructure, and that's, first and foremost, road condition and capacity. But as we have projects underway to upgrade water and wastewater capacity in the downtown corridor. I want to promote growth and installation of niche businesses and entertainment in the downtown corridor as identified in the charrette. But we realize that a very unsexy expenditure for those underground infrastructure projects needs to happen. It's not just roads. To me, say attract investors as the place to be, as South Florida lives here. We attract investors, and it leads to the creation of nightlife and family activities, not just restaurants and adult type locations, but potentially park, urban air adventure, things that you would find outside of our park system, but are recreational and family friendly. And of course, everyone else has identified business friendly, streamlined processes. That all goes to the package of attracting investors. And we're serious about doing business in Homestead, and clearly aesthetics, curb appeal, enhanced landscaping. We have nearly $9 million in federal funds about to deploy to entirely new streetscape on Harlem, Washington, sidewalks, lighting, public furniture, bus stops, street signage, lighting, everything, widen sidewalks. A poor and dirty city. And some of that comes from, again, being lumped into that greater Homestead area, when a lot of people look at, in terms of investing and locating here, we get lumped into some areas that really drag down our statistic. So it's got to be that image improvement, it goes aesthetics, branding as historic place to be and the home of the future lives here. Obviously, upgrading our entire park system. That keeps coming up in all of our surveys that the majority of our residents don't live on parks. They don't have expansive backyards for their kids to play ball in, even play in. So Davis and I are fortunate to live in the older neighborhoods where we have that. vast majority don't, so really it's an expansion of our park system.
Here. All right.
Thank you very much. As you can see, I considered mine more on a macro kind of scale. Where these guys are appropriately ready to go. But I looked at it bigger. I look at stewardship as sustainability. You gotta steward your money and figure out where it's gonna go. And it also includes the votes that we took earlier this year, about the electric rate and things like that. You've gotta be good stewards of that stuff in order to maintain your sustainability. And we've all seen the nightmares from other communities that have failed to do that, didn't have no courage to stand up and say, we know what we gotta do. And they did it. And that also goes not just the money coming in, but the money, what we want, how much we waste. Okay. Let's steward that notion of stewardship from the bottom to the top is very important. Infrastructure equals options. Right now, down Cool Avenue, we have the options. We have the options. And the other areas are like that, so we've got to get that infrastructure out of the way. Now we have options to do all the things that work. Customer service equals quality of life, and that customer service is, not just the customer service down. It includes customer service downtown where you're getting your permits done, customer service when you call the police to ask for help or to bring something to their attention that ain't right. We can all through our organization. When people can voice their concern or something as a customer and know that it's not just getting, put in a circular file or they're not blown off when they're giving information, that's quality of life, which is this is what these people are paying attention to. And then hand in hand with that, as we extend ourselves to the community, that equals trust. They trust us, they trust this organization. And God bless Siri for coming on board and all the changes we've made in the city manager office. That builds the trust that says, I got this problem and I know something. And so we're going to be responsible and sure how they help me out. So I kind of look at it in a different way. I don't know if that's totally within your guidance. So.
No, it works out really well. So here's what I'm gonna do now. We're gonna group the ones where y'all said the same things. And we're gonna see kind of what comes out. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab all the ones that say infrastructure. And I'm gonna ask you all right now, when we talk about infrastructure, roads as part of infrastructure. I put roads and traffic and doing that. Oh, of course. Yeah. Can I put roads and traffic with infrastructure? Yes. Okay. And congestion on the left, the pink. There it is, congestion goes with infrastructure. Anything else? I think that's good. So we're gonna have our infrastructure grouping right here. What other areas, how do you see that? What else goes together that you all see? Job market. Friendly.
So it goes up there. Political shopping, dining experiences.
So wait, so job market.
Development service, development service, attracting investors, we're seeing attracting investors.
Yeah.
Like that's.
All right, attracting investors. I'll take kind of safety. Yes. All right, so
yes, safety.
yeah, we can leave, you want to leave public.
Yeah, okay.
For business friendly, can you reach?
Oh, yeah.
I'm usually not one that struggles with this, so thank you. My daughter, who is 5'2" in this fall, she's gonna get would really appreciate that moment because sometimes they'll just reach out. So we're going to do one category. So we got business friendly. Business and development service.
I think people shopping at night.
Yeah.
Was that more family? So that's a curious.
So that's a good question. Let's see that as a to be, anything else that you'll see is completely around investors, business from the job market.
The solution about I think that's.
All right, so let's talk about, I see, I'm gonna pick this one right here, I think quality of life. And I see things like family activities, nightlife,
Yes.
do those all go together? So let's put it, you know,
Right. That is, yeah, that's what we need.
nightlife, what else people say? Maybe the pink welcoming. Then. Yeah, y'all see that it's so, do you see preserving history as part of the quality of life, or is that separate? Is it important enough that it's separate, or is it?
I think it's important that it's, that, it's preserving history.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What about cleanliness?
Right.
So I'm gonna put that up there.
It's the first part of, about,
Cleanliness is.
Good, well,
yeah, cleanliness, neighborly,
Neighborly
quality of life. Does diverse go under quality of life too? Or is that one?
Diverse is really not a word I use, it's actually kind of at a different level, but the concept of it, that's part of that.
Life and quality of life are private diverse.
So this one has community specialist support.
To put that in the story.
Part is not here. Yeah, I'm sure. I was so right now, I'm looking, there's also, I'm gonna pause on the historic, so I think we've got to get through that. Yeah, so you guys would see what parks you're talking about. It's a good spot for parks, and then like family focus, quality of life. Various outdoor spaces, quality of life. More of an engaged in public safety approach. I don't think I've had the bar center. Inclusive. So they all get a home.
I feel like it's too should follow because there's different, it's diverse history.
Okay.
Inclusive and state.
Yeah. I think that's an important, there's 21 there.
Maybe.
So,
Image improvement would be under, would that be under branding?
so let's talk about that. So right now,
Image branding.
I've got another quality of life slide. So right now we have categories from quality of life. We've got categories around infrastructure. We've got categories around business friendly development services. Preserving history, and then this public safety. I think my question for you all
There's environmental stewardship.
is, and so there's kind of two concepts we've talked about a lot that aren't. So number one is this communication branding. Is that embedded in history, quality of life, a piece of that work, or is it important as a standalone?
I think it stands alone.
Do you think it's these ones like communication type category?
It's also been.
And the customer service piece of that is fit into that, right? The way you communicate, how you systems, does that feel right to people?
Yeah.
Along with the transparency.
Yeah. Let's see. Image. So what we have left, let's see, community, present, I'll put that one under the. Bring image one, transparency. Customer service quality of life. So now what we are seeing. Is this, all the stewardship, so responsible improvement stewardship, sustainability, environmental stewardship. So we've got the stewardship category, public safety, preserving history, branding, communication, customer service, that category. Business friendly infrastructure, probably that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a lot, it'd be nice to have shorter, so what's gonna happen with these, we'll work with staff to say, okay. Council said it's really important that we focus on infrastructure. So what are the specific objectives that support improving infrastructure, whatever we like this to be? I would offer that environmental stewardship can benefit quality of life if you write the goal statement. Right, if your goal is to have a high quality community that builds in the national parks, outdoor life, I think that could roll nicely into there if you're comfortable. Or if you want a separate statement.
I think it ties in. I mean, quality of life obviously is a very all-encompassing to begin with.
It is public safety and all the same process.
It does, and that was gonna be my next question. In some communities, honestly, it is like the political third rail to not have a standalone capital for anything related to police and fire, public safety or services. In other communities, it's embedded into the culture more directly, and it's fine to roll it in. I think my question for you is what type of community are you, or do you want to stand on better? Is it important enough around perception of safety, perception of crime, getting machine?
I think it is.
And then you can have a bunch of engagement type objectives and things to work on that aren't necessarily all related to safety. And there could be things sort of on there relative to parks and access, some other things like that can be a little bit broad.
Well, and in my mind, the perception of public safety is a function of the appearance of the community. This looks like a bad area.
Yeah.
The perception becomes there.
Interesting.
So I think it's that alone that we have to keep it focused. Or if you want to roll it into
Well, I'm saying that there are things that we do where ultimately public safety is folded into another.
Maybe
But
I'm
for now, because of the perception, it shows up.
image improvement, branding, public safety, and that category more so than. I think when we talk about quality of life, we're talking about experiences and how it feels.
How it feels. And so we're gonna put the public safety more into the perception of the community.
The amount of times I hear people saying they don't want to park in the garage. Have you ever had issues though?
It just doesn't.
So that's my point, that's the perception.
It's dark, dirty, and dangerous.
Yeah.
And that's what people think, that's what it is.
That the design is so, so important.
Just to like pictures with
Yeah.
this love.
So now we have our historic preservation, branding, communication, customer service, that category thing. The building, development, complete community jobs, theme of the category, I feel like that's what this is. Infrastructure is really self-explanatory, and then the quality of life. So they might write things to take family friendly or something residential in parks. This feels like it sums up what we've talked about during our time together, but you see anything missing? Any ahas that you're looking at it like this? What we will do with this is we'll take it and then Lucas has been currently typing over there, we've been talking about it. We'll write a goal statement that defines the purpose of the category. Offline. That really builds out what it is that you want to focus on, and then to start work on the specific objectives and the performance measures to say, yes, we're doing well, oh, we need to recalibrate, oh, we need to course correct, or we need to do more, we need to do less, so you can measure progress.
For me, as far as staff is concerned, I think it's really important that they also understand the public safety and the quality of life piece has a lot to do with the communication coming from the city. PD has a new social media person who is really funny, and I like the way they're going. You like, so it's getting there. Recycling, reducing, those are huge things. That education piece for the city, to understand what the actual crimes are, what our fingerprints is, our footprints is regarding trash, what can we do? I think those little things are great, the communication piece and the different parts.
That's helpful. Any other feedback like that you all like us to make sure that we share with staff? Great. Well, you're done. I do have to ask you one thing that we run out of the board. We always like, so we'd like to know what we could have done better. And then what was lost, we'll take that on. So now we're great, we can email it later, if it matters, somebody can be there actually. How are you most responsible for leading the viruses?
It's my first type of experience with this, and I think it went really well. I think that these are all items that we are passionate about, so to be able to put it all together.
And I think the meeting room really helped facilitate like a.
That's what-
Learning environment. And I think myself in the other conference room, I probably would have been more close.
Yeah.
The
They-
informal forum, I think, the close quarters interaction, like really got us to this finishing early.
Yeah, it's very comfortable. Environment very comfortable.
Okay, that's really good, we've got, sometimes we have to beg and plead for good space and just get them. That we're going to.
I think as a team, part of what you do is herding the cats, us feeding the cats. And you did a very good job. We say, they want to get it's not hard to follow. So we did say and express, and you're able to capitalize on it. It's all deep. And you can capitalize on it to.
Yeah, all over.
But one
I
of
mean,
the
it's really not.
thank you for that, and also the way that this kind of played out, where we were able to kind of witness the public's interaction, doing a similar exercise.
Yeah.
And listening, that helps shape and helps even like solidify what we were already thinking more important priorities, and so we'll be able to do this after that.
That's what you think.
Yeah, you may know that, but the results of the survey,
Right.
it's not outside of the bounds of where our focus has already been. This kind of confirms we're on the right track, it's just sort of, we get there from here.
Yeah, like confirmation is so helpful, because they get you out of the vacuum, right? I think this is what it is, I'm not certain, but now you have that, and that really helps me. We're difficult decisions. I mean, this is what we need to do.
I encourage you to just take a look at the parks survey that I did several years ago, already, so that might help, like, check out some of these things.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you.
So all have a great weekend, enjoy whatever it is.
And to our visit.
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
Well, not really, because all it seems great work. And you say anything else about it? Y'all basically summed up what I want to say. Thank you. That's pretty good.
That's our assumptions.
Yeah, it's really say much about it. That's pretty good.
Y'all have a great weekend.
Nice.
Great weekend, so we're gonna.
Oh, yeah.
Do we need to end? I'm gonna tell you that, which is what I'm. So it's really possible.
It was closer to.
Stop here.
Yes. It's all good.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.